young men speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while. When will the lonely voice of youth cry, what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
All right, we are back. And it is interesting times indeed. I know we just got done with a quote presidential debate. Uh, we're not going to go into detail about that, but certainly that's affecting what we're going to talk about. So we got our Sam Pal, because of course we do, and we've got our Muppet Cup, which everybody should have one, right? And I got some jelly babies today, so that's good. I have lots of jelly babies in the house. It's lovely, lovely chai. And I've got some table rock tea. I've got the winter tea here. We're gonna let it steep longer because it just came out, so it'll need more time. But yeah, it's good stuff. There's so many things going on. Sargon of Akkad did a video today, sort of dissecting Hollywood. Was not great. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are reaching a limit of what their models can tell you about the world, and they're all kind of losing it. So, everyone's models are broken, right? And so, we're Muppets in the storm. Like, we're in a storm, and we're just Muppets in that storm, and there's not much, ultimately that we can do, right? Where we're trapped in this milieu. And maybe we don't want to be trapped in the milieu, but that there's things going on around us. And I tweeted out today earlier. I did a couple tweets today, but like I tweeted out, like, the age of gnosis is sort of coming to a quick close here. And there's lots of ways to read that, and like someday I'll be able to sit down and write about it. But the new age that's dawning in the wake of the age of gnosis is basically, the age of reckoning. And then that's it's the reckoning time. Like, it's coming real quick. And it usually happens when the scales fall from the eyes. And what you're experiencing right now, or one of the things you're experiencing right now, I'll go into more detail on this later, but one of the things you're experiencing right now is people are having the scales removed from their eyes, right? The scales are falling from their eyes, and then you're seeing that, but you're not like, not everybody, right? It's not a universal, right? And the people who don't have scales falling from their eyes, well, that has to be dealt with, and that's where the reckoning happens. And the reckoning, like everything else, always goes too far, for sure. But and I don't want to make, again, I want to make a prediction on when, but likely soon. The age of gnosis is going to fade, and the age of reckoning will begin. So it's good to know. There's not much you can do about it, by the way. It's way too late for that. Like, we're years too late for any sort of intervention or prevention or softening. That's not going to happen. So again, look, we're Muppets in the storm. We're being battered around in the storm, and the storm is going to get worse before it gets better. And it's a storm. I don't know what it's going to do. We can't really predict a storm very well. And this sort of came up for me. I mean, lots of things came up. I'm not gonna attempt to string these together too carefully because hopefully you'll see it. Right, you'll see the patterns. So the whole idea of what we're entering into and what it means and all that has been, obviously brewing for a while. But the real sort of issue is one of perspective. And so there's a YouTube channel that used to put up quite a lot of content that I really love. I think I've mentioned before, Robert Murray Smith. Great stuff. And what happened to him about 3 months ago is his wife died rather suddenly. And we didn't get no videos from him. He put out one today, actually. I think it was today or yesterday. Um, Basically talking about, like having to rebuild his whole life effectively, and what he was doing and his friends encouraging him, etc. And obviously very sad, right? Like there's no there's no happiness here. He was quite a prolific YouTuber, and it's gone. And the thing is, your perspective uh, hides the world from you in some right. Perspective is privileging certain things over other things, right? There's costs, trade-offs. Talked about both those things before, and we need to recognize that, right? That's where the scales come from. The scales come from your perspective filtering the world for you, but it also hides you from the world, right? Because effectively, it if you don't see stoicism because you don't see it, it's not there. You're hidden from it, right? It's not just hidden from you. Uh, it's not a one-way thing. Now, the effect is asymmetrical, right? Things are asymmetrical. So that's good to know. It's good to like watch out for. And a good example of perspective sort of hiding you is Sargon of Akkad. He put out a video today, basically talking about the movie industry and the problems of the movie industry. And he's sort of he's blaming a number of factors for, we'll say, the problems of the movie industry. He's using a lot of critical drinker stuff. Of course, that's how I found him. Sorry, my God said, watch Critical Drinker. Okay, it's not hard. The lack of creativity, this idea of political correctness, and big budgets, and he talks about it in terms of cargo cult, and it's so close. He's not wrong. It acts like a cargo cult, right? Um, but he's also not right because that's not really what's happening. Cargo cult shows us mimicry. You're trying to mimic something, right? So this gets into Girard, and some of that's very timely for me since I've been studying Girard for so that I can talk to somebody about that soon. It should be an exciting video. So cargo cult's an example of mimicry, and mimicry is not bad. We need mimicry. It's not going away, right? It's one of these things that aren't going away. But why is the media terrible? It's not because cargo cult is the result of something. It's called incompetence. It's not hard. These people are LARPing their personal perspective ideal of Hollywood producers, directors, writers. actors in some cases. And the reason why it doesn't work for them to do this mimicry is because they don't have purpose. They have a pattern. They see the pattern. We can argue over whether or not they see the pattern well. We can have that discussion, but it doesn't matter. Like they see a pattern, they're mimicking the pattern that they see, which is not necessarily the pattern, right? But it's perspective from their perspective, what they see of it, right? And they're following a pattern that they don't understand, but that's life. You do that all the time. You're still doing it. Sorry. I wish I had sort of better news for the people who want to be like independent rational actors or something in the world. Um, that ain't happening. Right? You're stuck following a bunch of patterns that you do not understand and probably will never understand. That's just life. But the idea behind things like LARPing is important. Like the idea behind cargo cult is important. It's wrapped up in the strangeness of how broken technology is right now. My router blew up the other night at like midnight. So there's no quick fix for that. The new router would not configure correctly. And I looked it up and, they were like, "Oh, plug it into the device, don't use the wireless." And I'm like, "Well, it's a web page display problem." Like I as an actual like experienced expert was like, I don't see how that could possibly help. But I did eventually was able to do it. Uh, and it worked. And I was like, so the web page doesn't work to a local device over wireless, but it does when it's wired. That sounds actually impossible to make happen. I don't know what's going on because the wireless isn't slow, but the web page was taking, and I'm not joking, 20 minutes to display, which is virtually impossible to make happen, by the way, but longer story. Whoever's programming this is mimicking something that they don't understand. They're LARPing programming. They don't know what they're doing. They're not testing their stuff. And the reason why we don't see this is because we get fooled by this. We get fooled by the idea of what people are mimicking. We get fooled by lag, right? It takes a long time and a lot of very bad software engineers before the industry gets so bad that you see that, oh, we have nothing but bad software engineers. It takes a long time in the media industry to destroy the Star Wars franchise. Oh, we have one bad movie. Well, it's one, right? And look, there were people out there going, no, 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 no. This is not going to be one bad movie, guys. There's been some fundamental changes behind the scenes that indicate that they're all going to be bad. There were people saying that, and we have discounted many of those people, by the way, and that's a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. And I'll get into that later too, because that's actually really important to the storm. Now, we have a very sloppy definition of works. What works and what doesn't. And you can easily accuse me of this because I do throw around the word, oh, that doesn't work a lot, right? Like, oh, that works or that doesn't work. Like I say that a lot, but also I can usually back it up with some actual like, here's what would work if it were working, right? Here's what would happen if. And most people can't do that. So uh if your goal is to make money, what works is whatever makes money, right? If your goal is to be a good person, a bunch of making money doesn't work, right? Because even though you might make money with it, you won't be a good person at the same time. We don't have sort of single goals in that way. And the thing that's, causing a lot of this storm, this chaos that's coming, that's or here really, is meme culture and the speed of technology and the flattening of the world. And you can take an ordered system and turn it into chaos just by changing the clock on it. And here's the irony, right? How do I know that? Because I'm a technologist, and you can do that with technology. You can simulate what that looks like. Um, and and that's happening, right? But so much more is happening too, right? Uh, a lot of people don't understand simple concepts. They've been brought into a world and shown things that they're not ready to see. They haven't been shown the pillars upon which those ideas function properly. So, for example, again, there's a lot of people throw around the term LARPing. What the hell is LARPing? LARPing is a type of gaming. It's a game. So what you're saying is this person isn't really doing the thing, right? That's what LARPing is. They're playing a game, right? They're doing the thing as if it's a game. That's another way to think about LARPing. That is true. Now, the thing is, you can go, but Mark, gaming and LARPing are different, and people point to something, and we know those words should be different. And I would say, okay, maybe. But you know what that really is? And I'm going to make a hard claim here. That's bad naming. Because they sense a difference, but they can't point to the difference. This is happening all over the place where people are going, well, there's modern and there's postmodern, but we're not still postmodern, which of course you can't prove, by the way, but whatever. We'll just assume that they can. And then they say we must be going meta modern. I haven't said anything. I use three abstract words that aren't anchored in anything reasonable. But is there a progression of ages, and can we sense that? Yes. And so meta modern is not wrong in that way. But meta modern is completely wrong because there's a change with using the word meta and attaching it to another word, as I have talked about in a video on my channel, is beyond pointless sorcery. Like don't magic people to death. This is terrible. It's terrible to do. It's a tell for bad naming when you have a difference and you can't point it out, but you have assigned a label to it, some kind of name. Okay, that means either the initial thing that you pointed at is wrong, the new thing you pointed at is wrong, or they're both wrong, because that happens too. That's a big problem. There's a little problem. That's a big problem. This is how we get into this, ridiculousness with all these theories of everything and new physics and all this garbage nonsense. You don't have a definition for physics and you're reinventing it. Great. That's fantastic. How about no? How about you stop enchanting yourself and others? That would be great. And one way to think about this LARPing is when people are following a pattern without the purpose of the pattern. So when you're a Hollywood writer that does not have the purpose of writing a good, entertaining story for an audience that you care about, and maybe hope is out there, but don't know. Because often creatives don't know. That's a huge difference. As opposed to just writing to be in Hollywood and manipulate the audience, or tell them what to think, or push a political agenda, or highlight what makes you special and different and why people should care, or just to make money. Those are all bad purposes, by the way. Doesn't matter if you're a writer in Hollywood or something else. But when you're a writer, in the entertainment industry and you don't have the proper purpose, you're going to write garbage. That's assuming you can write, which probably you can't, by the way. Most people can't write a good story at all. Uh, and we've told people they're quote literate, and that seems to mean a lot more than it means. I mean, a lot of people who are quote literate read Plato's Cave and like totally missed the point. Like, they went completely the opposite direction that Plato was pointing in somehow. And then you're going to tell me you're literate? I get questions about what you mean by the word literate, my friend. I really do. I am concerned for your soul. Also, you read Moby Dick and you didn't get the slavery part right in the beginning? I don't. I know that's going to get worse as we do the Moby Dick book club. Uh, Language creation book club's fun though. Look, there's a storm here, and we're in it. There's a storm here. Don't LARP. Don't follow patterns without purpose, without knowing what you hope to get out of following the pattern. You're day trading crypto? Why? I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying why. Do you know why you're doing what you're doing? LARPing at not being assassinated? That's paranoid, nihilistic garbage. And what signal are you sending into the world? That there are assassins out there? Oh, no, it's a joke. People know. No, people do not know it's a joke. People are retarded. Sorry, you're a Muppet. I'm a Muppet. We're all Muppets. You're increasing the paranoia for other people. Do you think I'm kidding? We've had somebody on the stream talking about his paranoia. Do you think that was made better or worse by talking about assassins? I don't know. And we're LARPing justice. Why? Because when you tell people that there are no con men, when one shows up, people will act like that's not what's going on at all. This is equivalent to telling people, and I haven't done the work yet because I'm doing lots of work. But like this whole thing about Plato and Socrates saying people only do things for their perceived good. I doubt it. I doubt they said anything like that. I'll figure it out. But you can't do that. You can't tell people that. Because then when the evil is right in front of them, they won't believe it. When you've got a demented president who has dementia, no one will believe it. That's still happening. You can talk about the debate all you want. I predicted this from day one. Did I predict this exact event? No, but I predicted like, yeah, the scales are going to fall from the eyes eventually, and that's going to create chaos. And boy, is that creating chaos. And then everyone's like, oh, maybe it was a plan. No one's planned anything. I mean, these are the same people that think the world is rational, right? There's all kinds of tweets and posts about who's running the country. I got news for you, Ace. The president never ran the United States ever in the history of the United States, and it was never designed to work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's not supposed to work that way. You're a lunatic. You have been told a lie or talked yourself into believing something completely insane and ridiculous. Insane and ridiculous for real. The founding fathers knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't want a king in that way. They actually designed the government so no one was in charge for real, explicitly. Go read the papers. If you were somehow psyoped into believing it ever worked, ever could work, ever was going to work, or ever should work that way, that's on you. What is going on? The president in charge. Oh, yeah, and if there's a war and we need to be in one or something, yeah, we're screwed because that's when the president should have some latitude to become a partial dictator because that's how the government is set up to work. Not right now, though. Not normally. It's only under extraordinary circumstances. And yeah, we're about to hit extraordinary circumstances. But also, where did you learn your US government, dude? What's going on? How did you get there? And how do I get you out? Like, wow, talk about scales not falling from the eyes. Oh, we know we have a president with dementia. Who's running the country? You traded one set of blindfolds for another. You can kind of see it as progress, I guess, but it's not. They've gotten worse, not better. And we want to think of the world as concrete, but how concrete is it? You pour a concrete, like actually pour it. Then you smooth it and shape it. Hopefully, you put down rebar, depending upon what you're doing. And then it hardens over time. And if you put a hand on it before it's dry, that ain't going away unless you smooth it over again. And what is the abstract? It's not the concrete. Fair enough. How abstract is it? Because there's two layers of abstraction. You need abstraction. You're not getting away from it. Why is software worse? Because no one will test it. They don't want to know if it works. Because they'd know if they were doing well or not. They're not going to test it anymore. And that's the problem, or one of many. They're going to say, oh, we're going to test it before we put it together. Okay. Suppose I'm building a car and I build the axle and I spin each end of the axle and then I mount it on the roof of the car. The car's not going to drive. You didn't test it right. Sorry. Another thing, you don't have to do the first test. But that test doesn't tell you whether or not the car's going to drive. That test and the sum test of every single individual part of a car working will not tell you if the car will drive at all, ever. We know this mathematics has been covered. Entire software industry is not testing anything after it's built at all on purpose, knowingly. You don't have to fire anybody. No one did anything wrong. We can't prove it. We can blame the infrastructure. We can blame the release schedule. We can blame the management. We can blame all kinds of things, except we just have terrible software engineers who don't know what the hell they're doing and shouldn't be in the industry. Whatever. So what is the fundamental issue, we'll say, of right now, because it is right now? Well, sometimes things become unavoidably manifest in the world. And you're now in a panic when you ignored the warnings for so long, too long. And now there's a sunk cost. That sounds like a problem. And there's really a much bigger problem, which is that we see things clearly in the past and less so in the future. And most of bullshitting, the technical term that John Vervaeke talks about, is hindsight bias. So one way you can hindsight bias yourself is to look at the outcome of an election and assume that there was a plan in place to make that outcome happen and assume who did it. And often people then assume how the mechanism works. And then they go back and say, okay, that's how the world worked. It's all fantasy, by the way, because you weren't there and you don't know. And then they take that pattern and they LARP it into the now. And then you get the Blue Church from Curtis Yarvin, which is garbage. It's a garbage frame way of thinking about the world. Like, no. Right? Church is unique and special for a reason. And I'm not saying there aren't people trying to treat things like churches that aren't LARPing, right? But there's no Blue Church. Like, that's the bad way to think about the world. And so we get confused. And the reason why we think the world is rational is because of hindsight bias. We post hoc rationalize the world. And then we go, aha, I can tell a story about the world that makes sense and fits together and has all these, explanatory powers for all the things that unfolded. You already know the things that unfolded. So is it explanatory of them, or is it a description of something you saw and then you filled in a bunch of points and called it an explanation? Yeah, I got questions. And what if all rationalization that we do, that we have ever done, is post hoc? No one thinks about that possibility. That we're just constantly acting, stimulus response, stimulus response, stimulus response. And then we're telling the story after the actions happen. Very rarely do people think things through and then execute them. First of all, you suck at that. Just telling you right now. And second of all, you really don't plan the world very well, ever. You can tell when people had a plan and they put it together, and then it usually fails, right? You can tell, actually, if you're really careful. But that's not what's going on. We're not sitting around planning the world in that way. We're just not. We're not capable of doing such a silly thing. We're just not. But we think we are. We think we're rational creatures for some reason. But we're not. And the thing is, and you can loop this into anything, we're living in a world where people are trying to get rid of ideals. They're using that skeptical cynicism, another video I have on the channel, to tear things down. And the thing about that is that when you remove ideals, you remove judgment. And so you could say, well, I don't judge people. Well, you have no ideals. Or at least you're pretending not to. You're LARPing having no ideals. But that destroys the world. Just spoiler alert. And look, if there's no ideals, there's no judgment, you aren't so bad. Whatever you've done, it's not so bad. There's no ideals, so there's nothing to compare yourself with. The relativism doesn't bother you at all. I mean, you still have to get rid of the relativism, right? Or at least the judgment of the relativism, which means you have to flatten the world. You have to make everything equal. Equality doctrine confirmed. The reason why people are taking pot shots at ideals is to flatten the world. They want to get everything nice and flat. So the relativistic system that they're using to think about the world won't judge them either. Brilliant strategy. Also evil, but I'm still a no on evil, by the way. But it's a brilliant strategy. And these things are interconnected, right? You can go after equality doctrine. That's going to remove judgment for you. And the ideals can't exist because then we're not equal, right? You can go at it from that angle, right? You can go at it from the other angle. Well, I don't want to judge, and therefore, right? Well, that's going to do it. Or you can just say the world is relative. That'll also do it. All three of these things lead to reciprocally narrowing in on themselves and narrowing you in on a flat world, a single perspective, flat world. And then when you go looking for rationality, it's never in you or it's only in you. And ultimately, this no judgment thing comes from, I want to be super generous, I'll say a misunderstanding, but it sounds, it comes from putting a positive spin on everything, because putting a positive spin on everything is supposed to make people better, according to B.F. Skinner. And the problem is, B.F. Skinner did some great work in psychology. There's no question about it. Really good stuff. This is not his good work. This is his bad work. He tried to prove that this was the case. He proved the opposite in multiple experiments at multiple levels with multiple things. His son tried it. Doesn't work. Positive only feedback doesn't work. And the thing is, it's a stupid assumption to make unless all of evolutionary theory set is false. False. All of it. Actually, all of it. If you take evolution seriously at all, you realize immediately the only thing that matters is the negative signal, not the positive. Some positive signal does not mean anything. Does not mean anything. Right? You don't need it to make an evolutionary system work. We can argue about whether evolution is a good model and all that, and I'm not going to, because I think evolution for the most part is true. We can argue about what evolution is. That's fine. We can have that discussion someday. But I don't think it's wrong. And it only needs negative feedback. Where is our negative feedback in society? We're not getting any, or we're getting very little. And what are we doing when we get it? We're getting upset and demonizing those people who are giving us negative feedback. You need that to survive, and that is the only thing you need to survive. But you need that it's not optional. No negative feedback, you get wiped out. And the problem is the lag. Yeah, every bad person in Hollywood is not going to get fired tomorrow. It's going to take years. Some people pointed this out. If you listen to Critical Drinker, he's had discussions on his open bar. I only listen to the clips. I don't listen to the open bars, where they've pointed this out many times. This is going to take years to clean all these people out. There's a lot of incompetent people that Hollywood's let in for decades with an S. And that's the problem. The lag is huge, especially when you don't notice the origin of the problem correctly. And how did we get here? Well, look, one thing to think about is you can say people were told in a postmodern way that the only reason people think Republicans aren't bad guys is because of the stories they hear or they're told in Hollywood. And it's that simple. If you just tell people that, that's all you have to do. They will act as if, oh, we just need to change the narrative. And those bad Republicans will vote Democrat once they see the truth. But this isn't true. The stories have to match reality and point to ideals. Otherwise, they won't hold over time. You can put all the flashy fight scenes, all the laser blasts, all the beautiful backgrounds and landscapes, and all the clever lines and all the jokes in the world in your movie or in your book, but it's not going to last. I remember watching the movie Superbad. You ever see the movie Superbad? First time I watched the movie Superbad, I thought, this has got to be the funniest movie that could ever possibly exist. I tried to watch the movie Superbad again, and then I realized, PSYOP confirmed. Superbad's not that good. It's not funny the second time around at all. And it's not because you know the jokes are coming. It's something else. Interesting. Interesting. Time and place? Maybe. Set and setting? Maybe. Probably something more. Not mere novelty, although there's a lot of novelty in there because who tells jokes like that? No one before they did it. And the interesting thing is the signal everyone's missing. And the signal everyone's missing is Hollywood's been hijacked, right? And we have all these stories of children saving the world. The children are the smart ones. They're beating the system. They're in charge. Everyone else is a buffoon. Now, that pattern started a very, very long time ago in TV and movies. It's been going on for a very long time. If you missed it, that's your fault. Why are the children saving the world in these stories? Why is it the world? Why is it children? What is maturity? Because it's not age, although the two are associated. How are these children so good? And why are they good? Like, what makes them good? But why are we pointing at children to save the world? Well, because that's what we have. We have a bunch of immature LARPers, and that's why they're LARPing, because they're children. They may be 30, they may be 40, they may be 25, whatever. They're children. They know they're acting like 5-year-olds and 9-year-olds. So they're putting the 5 and 9-year-olds up as the heroes of these movies and stories. Look at Harry Potter. Oh, that's a problem. Why? They know they're not ready. They know they need to be. It's all age of gnosis. The kids are just smart, typically. They're not strong in that way. They're not powerful in that way. It's usually just smart. Why? Because that's them. They know the world's in trouble. And they know that basically, as the intro song says, like they're inheriting this world one way or the other. Because it turns out that the older you get, the more likely you are to die. And that's a problem. And if it's not knowledge, because that's all they have, they don't have any experience, they don't have any struggle to look back on, they're not good with suffering, they don't know how to adjust, how to be criticized, how to take critique and turn it into a positive. No such thing as negative critique. It's just critique. It's how you take it and what you do with it. And that's why you see some of these tropes in these movies and shows and books where the kids do it alone because children are selfish. Children are little tiny narcissists. They're supposed to be. That's how they survive. Although they're supposed to grow out of it. They're not supposed to grow up and write movies. And what are these Hollywood people doing? Like lots of people, they're rushing around so that you never see them. At least not clearly. And then they get upset when no one knows who they are. Well, dude, why don't you stand still for a few minutes? But it's worse, really. They rush around to create an image of themselves, to control how they are related to, which, by the way, doesn't typically work. And then, of course, as I pointed out, they get upset at the loss of intimacy. The intimacy crisis is your fault. Can't blame anyone else. You have to get out there and do the uncomfortable thing, the struggle. Just tell you a story of my struggle from last night. We went out after a event, and there was somebody there who's clearly struggling over Brexit. He was from Edinburgh, Scotland, and he got very emotional. And I was sitting right across from him, like, whoa, sitting there in my head going, calm down, dude. It's okay. You're here now. Like, you live in America. It's Brexit's not, who cares? And the irony was, he's very perturbed. I don't think anybody brought it up except him. He said, oh, the leftist media in Britain told everybody Brexit was a good thing. I was like, all right, boy, that's quite the opposite experience I had. Right? And they just told them all these lies and played on their emotions. And here he is slamming his fist on the table. And I'm like, well, that's a little weird thing to say, that everyone else is being moved by their emotions when you're slamming your fist on the table and basically swearing about this issue. Like, I don't know what the scales are not falling from his eyes anytime soon. But when they do, and you see that a lot today, I've seen it all over Twitter today. It's been horrific. The problem is not that you've been lied to. That's not the problem. I'm not saying that didn't happen, right? It's that you were mean to those people who tried to tell you that you were being lied to. And you're still not giving them the credit they deserve for being right and trying to help you and make you better. That's the problem. Allegedly realizing suddenly after some debate or something where the manifestation became too obvious to ignore and saying, I was lied to, that's a having mode problem. You're trying to have the knowledge of the lie for yourself. All of a sudden, as though you've self-transcended and grown bigger than you were through magic. It didn't happen. You didn't have that experience. What happened was the scales fell from your eyes through some force outside of yourself. And the obviousness of reality has objected to your subjective experience. You didn't learn anything. And it's a little too late in the game. And for you to now not give credit to the people who warned you, that's a tell. That's an important tell. That they still have scales on their eyes, that they're still narcissists, and that they're not any better. They haven't improved. Some of them have, for sure. But not the ones that aren't acknowledging, oh, they told me this years ago. Oh, this is a problem 2 decades ago. Oh, I was mean to the person who tried to warn me. And mere confession is not enough. It's confess and repent, after all. And not confessing and repenting for having treated people poorly when they tried to help, that says it all, I'm afraid. That's why the reckoning That's why the narcissism hasn't gotten any better. You can drop some scales from the eyes all you want, but without the action and first the acknowledgement, got to acknowledge, oh, I was a fool. Oh, I was told. Oh, I handled that poorly. It doesn't have to be a public confession. Then you have to repent. You need the action. It doesn't have to be a direct action. You don't have to give all your money to all the people you screwed over or were mean to and then go live in a monastery, although that is an option. But you also can't do nothing. Because without the experience, you didn't learn. You think you read a book and learned something? You're wrong. That never happened to you ever, and it never can happen to you ever. Sorry. Experience. You have to participate to learn. There's no other way. Welcome to the end of the age of gnosis, which brings in the age of reckoning. It's coming. It's coming. And we don't realize how poor our perspective is. We don't realize how poorly we see the world. Let me tell you a story. 1,000,000 years ago, when the dinosaurs ruled the earth, very good friend of mine, genius, absolute freaking genius, was visiting the hippie house that I used to live in with those dirty, smelly hippies that one of them and I were going downstairs. And he was coming upstairs. And he was like, dude, do you want to go to whatever? I forget where he wanted to go. And I was like, nope, there's a guy coming here. And I want to hear the talk because he's coming here to talk to us about something. And he goes, oh, the guy out front? And the dirty, smelly hippie guy's like, yeah, that's him. He goes, oh, he's just an Amway salesman. And I was like, what? What? And he goes, yeah, he's an Amway salesman. You should come with me. And I was like, no, I didn't believe him. I was like, how do you know that? And he said, no, I saw him. I said hi. And I was like, you didn't talk to him? And he's like, no, I didn't talk to him. And I was like, what? How do you know he's an Amway salesman? He's like, he's an Amway salesman. Like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, okay. I didn't go with him. I should have. Guy was an Amway salesman. There's nothing wrong with Amway, but like my buddy knew he was an Amway salesman by looking at him. I didn't know that. I don't know how he did that to this day. What am I blind to that he sees? Another friend of mine, good friend of mine, walking down the street on Cape Cod a few years ago, probably 6, 7 years ago. And there were 2 girls coming the other way. We were in Hyann. It's a rather upscale place. And I was, we were talking about something, probably JFK, because favorite topic on the Cape. And he was like, those 2 girls were having an argument, and the shorter one lost. And I was like, okay, well, first you're interrupting my story. Like, what the hell? How do you know that? And he's like, well, she was crying. And I'm like, well, okay, like girls cry for lots of reasons, just like guys cry for lots. Like, wait, someone's crying, so what? But then he laid it all out for me. Now, he didn't hear anything they were saying. He just watched them as I walked down the street. I know he can do this. He's always been able to do it. I have a couple friends that can do that. I can just look at people and go like, oh, this is what's going on in that person's life. And I'm always like, what the? First of all, if I notice there's a person there, That's like, we're doing good. Like, so yeah, I don't know how they do that. But they do. Some people do. Maybe not you, but some people do. Your perspective may vary quite a bit. In fact, I'm pretty sure it does. We come up with very complicated models for the world. But at the end of the day, women point and men build or smash or hide. Right? If we're admonished, we'll hide. So men are just ogs. And og build, og smash, og smash. That's it. We og no. What builds or what smash? No need for why. But if someone admonishes us, we'll hide in a cave. Like forever? Maybe. If we can hide in a cave and play video games, it's like we're not even in the cave. Because we're building and smashing. Kind of. Or at least we're LARPing, building and smashing. Now, aren't we? Indeed. Just FYI. That's why women point. Because Og doesn't know what the hell to do or why he's doing it. This is what it is. Ogs are powerful. But she who points is precious. And we need them both. And they're different. And that's good. If they were the same, evolution wouldn't work, by the by. One way to think about the problem of today and the chaos that is about to befall us, or likely that we're already living in, is the loss of the archetype of the divine feminine. Now, this is supposed to be hidden and pointed at, not overt. Women need to be precious, not powerful. Whether they can or not is not relevant to the argument, or the world, or reality, or that which objects to your subjective experience. And that is to say, there are a lot of people out there who are beauty first, or beauty will save the world. Beauty is always represented in the feminine. They want their mommies. You can be upset that I'm oversimplifying something. I am not. The wisdom first people. Wisdom will save, they want their mommies. Wisdom is always represented by a woman. They are usually explicit about this. Sophia is a female. Blah, 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 blah. They're trying to channel the divine feminine as a solution to the problem of the world, and they don't even realize it. And fair enough. You don't know what you're up to. Jordan Peterson says so. I believe him. The Peterson sphere is real. And that's the problem. When you don't have a symbol, an implicit way of representing something, because you flatten the world, you run into these issues. They're real problems. They're big problems. You remove the pointing from the world, and the chaos will commence. And you don't know what order is or how to get order to fix the problem. You don't. I wish you did. You wish you did. You don't. We need the divine feminine, but it's not our mommy. Our mommy was broken, which is why we want her back. And if we didn't have an archetypal feminine to point to, then it's no wonder we think beauty will save the world. It's no wonder we think wisdom will save the world. Because when you're young, that is the world. And without it, what happens? Chaos. The age of reckoning. And now I shall catch up on these clever comments. So, Father Eric, if Sarah hadn't gotten extremely ill, she was going to try to record that at my request, but we were not able. I figured you'd get it. It took her a while. Ixnon. It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets in the Muppet Storm tonight. I love it. I'm all in. Father Eric, most Hollywood writers could use some real mimicry. No, I mean they're mimicking what they see. Like again, you're limited by your perspective. And so your mimicry is not good for most people. Some people it's very good. Like some people really see a lot more of the world at once. Sally Joe, Muppet Storm in the Reckoning. Yes. Ray, is Lucas a Muppet? Yeah, we're all Muppets, dude. Like I'm a Muppet, you're a Muppet, we're all Muppets. I don't understand. The question is who's pulling the strings on Lucas? Probably money, materialism. Father Eric, it's not even good propaganda. At least the Soviets has style with their posters. It'll be looked at as good propaganda. I don't think the Soviets saw their original propaganda as particularly artistic. We see it that way now. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Elizabeth, we can say technology is the problem. We can. Technology is certainly needs to be dealt with carefully and not democratized to absolutely everyone, which is what we've done. Right? Like if you keep technology in the right hands, it's not so bad. You don't give anybody a ship with cannons on it. Not too long ago, people knew that. We've lost that. Father Dr. Peterson had a video about this one on civilizational scale. Yeah. Why don't you link that on the Discord server so I can watch it? Although I'm way behind on videos. Remarkably behind. Elizabeth. Alessandro Berbero, Italian professor of the medieval, maintains that we learn nothing from history. Yeah, well, we certainly don't learn from history, that's for sure. Elizabeth, flatten the world, so there's zero guilt. Who needs forgiveness? That's a very good point. This is why I like you, because you're super insightful. Yeah, well, and if you don't need forgiveness, we'll say from something above you, then you don't need something above you. Good point. It's a really good point. Benjamin Franklin, negative feedback is when stock price goes down. No, not if you're shorting. So you're just wrong about everything, dude. I don't know what to tell you. And you're materialistic, and that's not ever going to work. You're not going to understand anything. Most people don't have portfolios, dude. So that can't be the motivation for most people. That's another problem. Save America for your gibberish. Complete gibberish. Father Eric, BAC. I don't know what BAC is. Sorry. I know I saw it when you wrote it, but I didn't connect it to what I was saying. So Father Eric insists that when he was 16, he was even dumber than he is now. Well, that's a good admission. Let's see. What else do we have? Sally Joe, very bad pattern. There's lots of very bad patterns out there. Father Eric, you cannot become a priest until age 25. Yeah, you need some experience in the world first. Bishop at 35. Oh, wow. That's That's wild. That's good. You need 10 years of being a stupid priest. Elizabeth, nice. Stories have to point to ideals. Yes, they do. Narrative, right hemisphere. Yay for myth. Okay, Elizabeth, I'm glad I made you happy with that. Have you seen story narrative archetype? My video? I think you'll like that one. It's very good. Kind of awesome. Even Vanderclay watched that one. I liked it. So not enough to promote the channel, but whatever. Sally Joe, the idea that you are more virtuous as a child is abhorrent. I agree. I mean, they point to innocence as virtue, and I'm like, oh, that's not that. No, no, that is definitely not true. Innocence is not a virtue. It just makes you weak. And Peterson points at this, right? He talks about, yeah, that doesn't make you brave. So, Joe, naivete is not a virtue, right? Also, yeah, naivete is the opposite of virtue. Yeah, if you don't know that what you're doing is dangerous or scary or whatever, then yeah, there can't be any virtue in it, right? Because there's no risk, and if there's no risk, like why should you get a reward? That's one way to look at it. Father Eric, an idea that comes from folks who haven't grown up or never raised a child. Maybe the problem is when you say raised a child, a lot of people think, oh, you just have to have a child, but a lot of people have children and don't raise them. In lots of ways, I mean, it happens. Benjamin Franklin, children are more adaptable. No, they're just more fragile and they die easier. Father Eric, I think Rowling wrote a realistically dumb HP in book 5. Look, I don't know. Like, I don't know who read J.K. Rowling's stuff. I love the movies. Her writing is not great. Like, not terrible, but it's not great. Sorry. Benjamin Franklin, children usually adopt and master new technologies faster than adults. No, they don't, actually. That is a misread of the situation. They start out with different skills because, say, the skill of using the mouse is not relevant to the skill of using a system and taps. So the area you have in your brain for learning things gets taken up with taps or gestures or whatever instead of being taken up with mouse movements. So no, they're not adapting technology more quickly. Just that as things move, the old things go away and the learning is replaced by the newer things. Children are more selfish and squishable. That is correct, Sally. They are more selfish and more squishable. Sally Joe. It is a refusal of responsibility by adults to say the kids or the beautiful will save the world. That's correct. The only way they could is because something huge and mature took the bulk of the world's horrors. Well stated. They've been hidden from their perspective. In other words, children should be hidden from the world in that way to protect them. Right. But then they don't have any experience with those things, which is why you need to let them go out on their own and risk it all, really, because you do. You will sooner or later. Better that it happens sooner in some ways. Benjamin Franklin, speaking of Hollywood and children, I recently saw the trailer for that new children's movie, The Wild Robot. Hollywood is back, baby. No, Hollywood is not back. I thought we went over that earlier. But Father Eric, my righteous indignation does not equal their absurd emotionalism. Right. Muppets in the Storm. Do, 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 do. Sanjuro, good to see you, sir. Ooh, the Age of Reckoning sounds fun. Well, that depends on a lot of things. Also, Reckoning is not perfect. Father Eric, is Amway salesman a euphemism or something? No, Amway was the first multi-level marketing thing. It's still around, actually. It's not horrible, but it's also you're constantly selling to your friends. And they're useful things. Like it's a wholesale club, but spread person to person. It's not a bad model, but it's also not a multi-level marketing scam at all, but also looks like one. So that's the problem. It's very sales heavy. So Ixnay, the Age of Reckoning. Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of wreckage from the Age of Reckoning. That's for sure. Og game. Og has 2 G's. Come on, father. Really? Did they teach you nothing in priest school? I mean, nothing. It's a crying shame. So look, that is my monologue. Feel free to jump in and join me if you wish, and we can talk about any of that or other things. Entirely up to you. Oh, that didn't send everywhere. That's very strange. Apparently if you go to navigating patterns to get the link because it doesn't send everywhere. Well, it's sent to randos. I can only pin it on navigating patterns though, so that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And wow, that was quite a read. That was quite a read of my notes, indeed. The Age of Reckoning is probably here, but in either case, is coming fairly quickly yet. I don't know, man. I hope you've been naughty. Then we'll spank you. But if you've been nice, then I guess the Age of Reckoning probably won't hurt you much. Hopefully. But there's going to be a lot of wreckage. There's going to be a lot of chaos. This might affect somebody that you know. But yeah, if you haven't been nice, Age of Reckoning is not going to be nice to you, as my suspicion. And yeah, as more scales fall from eyes, and yet that doesn't have the actual effect, that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a big issue. A lot of people are, I've been lied to. Like it's about you. It's not about you. Nobody said, I'm going to lie to whatever your name is today. That never happened. No one knows who you are. No one cares. Really important. Yeah, I mean, confess and repent, man. The time is now because things are going to get a lot worse a lot faster than you think. And with all these people doing nothing, and that is the problem. A lot of people are still doing nothing. Like, oh my God, no one's steering the ship of the country. Okay, are you going to do something about that? Or are you just going to panic? A little selfish to do nothing but panic if you actually believe the whole country's like that. I don't know. And look, if they lied to you about that, whatever that is, what else did they lie to you? No one considers that. They just consider their victimization and having been lied to. Then they have their victim status. That seems to be their whole shtick. And it's like, I don't know, bro. Like, isn't there something more important going on? Maybe a little more important than you and having been lied to? Could be. Oh, here he is. The man, the myth, the legend. Welcome, Father.
Hey, sorry, I had to go put on a clerical shirt so Jacob doesn't yell at me.
Ah, fair. Well, whatever. You don't have to necessarily listen to his rules about your dress, but sure.
I'm a little heartbroken to hear that we didn't get Muppets in the Storm performed, but if you need help rewriting the lyrics,
I will. Yeah, it was considered. Believe me. There were discussions about what additional equipment we might need here to do this because Sarah is a classically trained pianist and she has keyboards and stuff. They're in the living room. They're all set up. They're ready to go. So there was a theoretical possibility that maybe with a quick trip to the store and one or two pieces of things that we might not have, that we could have gotten that done. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, fun thing about the Doors is that they didn't actually have a bassist. The organist played 100% of the bass notes with the foot pedals on his organ. So when you hear the kind of the running, jumping foot pedals on like "L.A. Woman," just imagine it's
Really?
yeah. You can't see my feet, but they're moving pretty good.
Have you ever seen anybody do the one-man band thing?
I have.
I saw somebody perform one in a club one, like multiple songs, and it was unbelievable. Like he's moving his feet and strumming a guitar, and yeah, I was like, "What is going on?" It was quite amazing. It was really quite amazing. Let's see. Sanjuro says, "The image of the Muppets happily dancing on a pirate ship heading into a storm keeps making me laugh." Well, hey man, um, we can make that happen.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
I was
there's a
thinking,
clip from Muppet Treasure Island that we can
maybe
utilize. Yeah.
I'll animate it. I'll animate some drawings or something. We'll get it done, and we'll get the
Yeah.
song done. It'll be fun. But yeah, I figured you'd figure it out, Father. But it went into my head immediately. I was like, oh yeah, it's perfect,
Yeah.
absolutely perfect.
Yeah. Muppets Treasure Island. That one is. You know, they made some good Muppet movies, and then they also made a lot of kind of crappy ones.
Well, that
So
was the time of experimentation in film in particular, and people don't realize that. They're like, oh, this is really good and they're really bad. And it's like, well, yeah, but they were experimenting, and that's what happens is you don't know what works yet, but then they dialed it in and figured it out, and now they're gone. And the
well,
people we have are following these patterns that they don't understand, and that's part of the problem. Why don't you riff on that for a sec, Father? I'll
I
be right back.
yeah, it's with the Muppets. I'm not sure that's what happened because the very first. I happen to be an expert on these things. The Muppet movie is a family classic of ours, and it's good, wholesome entertainment for the entire family right there. And it wasn't long after that that the Muppet movies kind of all went downhill. So it could be a case that the producers didn't really get what made the original Muppet movie so great. But then, they also Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island. It works well, but they ended up in space, and that's a sign that your franchise is in trouble. Is when the only thing left to do is have a version of your franchise where everybody's in space, or have a version of your franchise where everybody's a baby. And the Muppets ended up doing both of that. So yeah, we'll see about that. I'm not nearly as good as Mark at riffing on things. Um, but that's a common enough pattern that we see is that something good manifests in the world, but they can't maintain the purity of it or whatever, and so it ends up eventually falling to pieces and not working anymore on account of drifting too far away from its original purpose. That happens all the time. Uh-oh.
True story, bro.
True story indeed.
There we go. I got things working today.
Are you here to talk about the Muppets?
No, I'm tired to talk about the freaking beauty will save the world idiots. That's what I'm here to talk about.
All right, before we jump into Beauty Will Save the World idiots, because that's a good one. Yeah, I wanted to riff on what you said there, Father, for sure. Because
Am I freezing? No,
no, okay. You're not freezing. You're fine. A lot of people don't realize there are tells in the world, like space. You take your franchise into space, right? The ones you mentioned, like those are good tells. It's a good, like, what are they doing? They're changing set and setting. I was like, okay, and then they're trying to reenact the same pattern, but actually set and setting matter, and so it's patterns. Not all patterns work with all set and setting. That's the problem, and I think set and setting is actually related to this idea that beauty will save the world, right? Because they're just putting the beauty in a different place, what they see as the same beauty. And before I segue to that, though, I do want to, Josh, good to see you, Josh. You killed Dead Tom, the Muppet Treasure Island.
That's a really good point. And what I think happens a lot is people don't realize that they aren't capable of doing the same, participating in the right pattern of making another good Muppet movie, making another good Friday the 13th movie, right? Because that was Jason X, he was in space, which is just like, oh yeah, that franchise is not doing well. The thing is that you never know. It's hard to tell when you're in the middle of it if anything's going to be good or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're so close to it that you can't really see it, which is why apparently Carrie Fisher was a highly sought after script editor in Hollywood.
She's a fixer. Yeah, she was a fixer.
She would come in, she would rip your script to pieces, and apparently, like I can't speak to the quality of her work, but like people wanted her to come in, and it's like, it's amazing to me that people aren't bringing in the Critical Drinker to do that, because I think he would be a brilliant script editor, but it takes a certain amount of humility to say, you know what, I can't make a good Friday the 13th movie. I can't make a good Muppet movie. I can't make a good Sonic game. I just need to do something else. And
if they know they can't make a good one, and the problem is they don't seem to know. Like they're busy blaming the fans. I'm like, well, do you not understand the relationship here? Right? But they're playing out the pattern of write movie, right, get paycheck or something, and then they're not understanding that no. The paycheck comes as a result of the value of the movie. The value comes as a result of the fans wanting it. The wanting comes as a result of the good story. They don't understand all those other pieces. It's sort of like the everybody craps all over the second and third Matrix movies, which you must watch if you watch the first one every time, by the way. It's a total requirement. The reason why it went horribly wrong is because when the Matrix came up with a whole new special effect called bullet time. It's a very big deal in the industry, but it's huge. And everybody copied it afterwards. But people didn't understand at the time, especially the people making the movie, the Wachowskis, and the other people probably meddling with their reasonable storytelling, because actually their storytelling, it's wrong, but it's not horrible. I mean, it's not so bad. It's not engaging. Obviously, I love The Matrix, even though everything in it is horrifically wrong and possibly completely evil. The idea of more bullet time took over the second movie, and so they just extend. Like, in fact, like you could fix that movie with editing pretty easily, because really all you need to do is take the fight scenes, cut them in half. That would improve the second Matrix movie tremendously. Like, right, that one move.
Yeah. They turned the Matrix into the Max Payne games. If you ever played those, it came out shortly after the Matrix did, and it had the bullet time mechanics, which is great for a first-person shooter, as long as it's implemented properly. A third-person shooter, excuse me.
Where all the good Muppet movies based on novels? I don't know. Well, a lot of good movies are based on patterns that. I don't know. Patterns are good. Oh, John, welcome.
Hey, hi. I want to apologize for making those accusations. I don't have to restate what they were unless you want me to, but I accused Mark of being criminal, and he's not. So I just want to say I'm sorry about that. I was a fool. I had like little sleep, and like someone tipped me off to it, and I looked at it like briefly for a little bit, and then found it wasn't correct afterwards when I was going to look at it more seriously. So
Someone tipped you off? How interesting.
yeah, sorry, I have a weird life. So,
Indeed.
but yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm the one with the weird life too, but different problem. Well, I'm glad you're better and you've gotten your sleep.
oh yeah,
That's good. Apology accepted, of course. So
thank you.
glad you found your way out of the woods.
Oh, I'm
The
still
wilderness.
finding my way. I know that from my
Yeah.
dreams.
True. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I want to read some comments here. So, Jacob, good to see you. People who know they are incompetent don't want competent people around to make them look bad. Yeah, I don't think incompetent people know they're incompetent. That's part of being incompetent. But the pattern plays out,
I
right?
think-
Because they don't.
I think
They
even
don't-
science has figured that out.
Yes.
Right? Isn't there a name for that? The Dunning-Kruger effect or something like that,
Dunning-Kruger
where the
effect,
less experience somebody has in a particular field, the more confident they are in their prognostications about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jacob, I see it all the time in Los Angeles. Yeah, a lot of patterns act out unconsciously. And I'm
Yeah, I was
not
about to
doing
say,
work
yeah.
on explaining that. Is the unconscious effects on the world. Nobody talks about it. I'm like, this is the bedrock of psychology, and you guys just fail to mention it all the time. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't like you. I don't know why. You know what I mean?
Here's John. What did you say here, John? Many stories start
Oh.
children because it's always characters to develop. Oh, that's a
It
really
allows
good
characters
point.
to develop.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's just like the
Yeah.
perfect version of that. Like I watched the Hitman movie recently, the one, I don't know if it's called Hitman, but the one that David Fincher made, and it starts off with Michael Fassbender, and he's like a clean hitman. You know what I mean?
Is that a
Very good at what he
Netflix?
does.
Is that the Netflix movie?
Yeah. It wasn't bad. It was good. There's a really good action scene. It's a good,
I
you
was
know, like
told to
revenge
watch
story.
it,
The ending
so-
is meh, you know, but you see
Yeah,
what they're going for.
It's
But,
on my
you know,
list.
Even him, he starts off like a child. You know what I mean? In a situation he's not ready for, and has to learn to control his emotions and stuff. And,
Yeah,
it's
no,
good.
I mean, this comment's a good point. Like part of the reason they're doing children is to simulate character development, which of course it doesn't.
Yeah.
But right.
Well, that's
And then
what I love the last Airbender shows, because it takes
Yeah.
like, I mean, they filmed it over like 3 years, and so the actor they had playing him at the end of it, he even just like feels older, he sounds older. You know what I mean? It has that natural
Mhm.
aspect, which is really cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, age doesn't make you an adult. It's the facing of trials, right? Storytelling
Yeah.
comes after. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the problem. We've lost wise storytelling. And that's part of it. Jacob says displaying competence makes you suspect and hated. Well, yeah, because look,
places.
I mean, if you're competent in a world and people don't know what competence is, you're a magician, you're a wizard, you're a magic creature. You should be suspected. The problem is we're letting people in a position where they're judging other people by that, instead of judging actual sorcerers in the world, which, like, there are sorcerers running around all over the place, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Do you mean in the
you're
form you
not-
said, or like people doing pagan practices, or like what do you mean by that?
Let
I
me
don't
see
know
if I
that
can do
there's a
this one, Mark.
Please.
It's like
Higher.
It's like anybody who is using enchantment for their own personal gain. We got to go define enchantment there. Enchantment is opening people up to possibilities. And there might be more than one way to open somebody up to a possibility, depending on what they're like. There are certain things that work with everybody, right? Let me tell you the story about how I made hundreds of dollars day trading cryptocurrencies, right? You could do that. You could do that kind of voice enchantment. If somebody is more open to the woo, then you can say, I'm going to cast a magic spell upon you to make you more attractive to women, right? And maybe you're susceptible enough that that magic spell will actually work on you, but what will the consequences of that be? So that would be kind of two different ways of looking at sorcery there. And Mark hasn't even jumped in and corrected me yet, so I must be understanding his vocabulary properly.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, there's a more expanded definition of enchantment that I'm sure I'll get into at some point, but I need examples and It takes a lot of time and research.
geez,
to get all
examples.
these
It's like
things.
using incantation to like bend reality, kind of sort of thing. Like when you're using your voice to make it sound like you have something that's more valuable than it actually is. in a
Well, no,
way.
but it doesn't have to be your
Genuine
voice.
people are doing it
Sam,
all the time.
like Sam Harris uses articulation enchantment, right? Where he uses clever words and word combinations, as well
Well,
as
I'm
his
convinced
voice.
he's enchanted himself, honestly. I think he believes everything
Right.
he says. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's so funny watching him speak because he's like so convinced that he's right about everything that like, oh, Tucker
Right.
Carlson is just a not proper actor. You know what I mean? It's like, you know,
Right.
whatever. He's really blind to
Right,
the things that he doesn't like. The fact that the way he talks about RFK is just like, I don't know, like someone just needs to debate RFK, please. The man is dying to be debated. I'm so tired of watching him being like, people attack him, and then he has to literally.
Well,
sit on a stage
he's an
by himself.
alternative. Right. He's an
Yeah.
alternative without an identification, and then
Yeah.
people you don't need to be principled to have that
Yeah.
alternative.
I
But-
was hoping he was going to have two podiums and run back and forth. Yeah, it'll be fun.
But that's part of the problem. Is there's lots of ways of enchanting. One way is just repeating the same thing over and over again. I mean, in some ways, certain types of branding are enchantment. And that's the problem, is that an enchantment isn't necessarily bad. Like
You
if
need this bottle, it'll give you ladies if you have my soap. Yeah.
well, but some types of enchantment are, look at that beautiful building, I want to go inside and worship. Okay, that's not bad. Like that's all good enchantment. Unfortunately,
Well, because
we're hiding our
it's an
enchantment.
honestly beautiful building and it reflects what's actually there, and that's why I think it's like maybe you can. There's a difference there. I guess that's what the not bad aspect is.
What is the
Depends on
difference in
what's in the
telos?
center of the building, but yeah.
Well, the telos is that it leads to something higher. I mean, a beautiful building. Okay, I was imagining a church when you said a beautiful building. Sorry. So I guess
Yeah.
maybe we're talking about just a normal.
No, I was talking about a church explicitly.
Oh, okay. The telos goes all the way up to heaven. You know what I mean? And so the face of it is actually reflecting something that's
No, you're-
real versus the
no,
soap
it-
giving you ladies is
The
like
building doesn't have
a
a
bit of a
telos.
stretch.
That's the problem. The
The
building,
building does
doesn't
not have a
telos.
telos.
No. If you're attracted to a beautiful building and it's a Gothic cathedral and you burn it down, your telos was not going to heaven. And the fact that maybe the people who built the building had that telos in mind didn't stop it from being burnt down.
I agree.
Well, yeah, right. Telos matters. You know what else
But, I
matters?
mean,
Nothing.
no.
Nothing else matters.
I think that also the goal of building a beautiful church is in the hopes that like if it does get burned down, it'll be brought back because it is so beautiful. I don't know. You know, like
I don't know, Sally.
It's not just eternal, and like this building is going to be eternal, but like
So, Sally, will beauty save the
Thank you so
world in
much.
that way? What do you think?
I mean, there's things that are. I mean, have you ever watched a thunderstorm roll in?
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful. It'll kill you.
it can kill you. Yeah.
I was thinking about this when we were talking about the kids stuff, and I got to thinking about what is the difference between defense and nurture? Because you have to open up a space and you have to defend a space to allow for nurturing. You can't nurture while you're defending. It's not possible
That's right.
because you have to take on defending. And the thing that I object to is not beauty as such. I'm okay with beauty, even though beauty is by necessity made out of destruction often. And I'm okay with it on a different level.
Well, I would say at that point, I see it as transformation.
Well, transformation is beautiful. Yes.
It can be. It can be like, you know what I mean? It depends on where it's heading, you know?
Stick with me here, though. You have to not reject the strength that it takes to defend, protect, and create the space for beauty to nurture your soul.
Mhm.
Because beauty will nurture you, but beauty cannot, should not, would not, it is not objectively good, and it cannot defend. And when you take a beautiful thing like a flower or the innocence of youth and put it forward at the front, and entropy hits it in all of its horror, it is ripped apart and made hard or killed. And this is often what's happening to women. who are having to provide for themselves and provide for their own children, and it goes obscure and it becomes twisted and nobody likes it and everybody's annoyed with girl boss, which is freaking annoying. But you can see why it happens, because you got to become hard, you got to become tough, because if there's nothing to leave space for you to nurture beauty and beauty to nurture you, what you gonna do?
Yeah.
And it's up to people to embrace strength. Embracing strength will allow beauty to nurture and allow beauty to be nurtured. Embracing strength and holding space. And I think that could save the world, but beauty by itself will just be destroyed. And you can't use beauty as a shield. That's gross and profane to even say that you.
Well, and beauty is the thing that draws you to protect it.
Right, which is why I think traditional femininity is so upsetting.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, look, it's the postmodern power equality narrative, right? Like it's all supposed to be the same. Jacob,
Right.
Beauty is not good, right? Beauty reflects good and truth. Yeah, beauty reflects things that aren't good and true too, though.
Yep.
It is something other than good, but it is linked to the good. It's not linked to good. It's just absolutely not.
You seen a panther? You'll never see something more beautiful in the world than a panther. It'll eat.
Than a panther?
Yeah, it'll eat your kids. It's beautiful.
Yeah, panthers are gorgeous. They'll eat you. Uh-oh, Elizabeth, go Sally Joe. There you go. You've got a cheerleader.
Yeah. Anyway, have anything else besides that? I took a shower on my face. So yeah.
Well, we appreciate that, Sally. We do.
I can't smell, but you look great. So I haven't showered yet. I'm very dusty. If this is an HD camera, you guys be like, oh, yeah. I'm like 1 degree shade paler than I'm supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that always happens. Like, you're always vulnerable in some ways, and it's not until you get hit in some way that you discover that, I guess.
So it's funny to have the little trope, with great power comes great responsibility. We have that, but you have people rejecting and hiding and just running the frick away from being strong.
Yeah.
And I don't understand.
Well, but also people are trying to take on responsibilities that they can't handle.
Well, yes.
Right? And so when a woman rejects you wanting to open the door for her, no one did that to her, right? She did that to herself, right? But then she's responsible for what happens for opening the door, right? Yeah. Well, and if there's a dragon on the other side of the door and she gets burnt to a crisp, like, you can't blame the man for that. Well, it's offered to help, but
you might be able to. I don't know. I'm the kind of person who would still help someone even if they were like yelling at me while it was happening, which has happened before. I'm like,
but
I was like in the middle of like almost dying, and someone was talking about
John, I do that too.
Women have to go through. I'm like, I'm literally running right now. Like it was.
Yeah, no, but I do that. I do that too. But that's not the issue. There's some things that you can't force people to get help with.
I understand.
And that is the issue.
Okay. Yeah. People have to help themselves. People can just reject everything all the time. Yeah.
I understand your rejection of the women who won't allow guys to open the door, but like, I can't tell you how long I felt like it was my moral duty to not need. And I don't know what to do about that, right? I don't know how to unravel that, but I felt like it.
Well, it's not just your fault. You know, it's everyone's fault. Yeah.
And I don't know what to do, but like I often think of how I could convince myself that shouldn't be criminal.
You couldn't have, right?
But
your parents did you wrong. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know if it was my parents. That's the kicker. It's like it's somewhere in the canned culture.
Did your father open the door for your mother?
Yeah.
So you saw this all the time, and
always not always like car doors, but like it did happen. It wasn't completely absent. So it's difficult to pin down.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think you should be able to open up a car door for yourself. You know what I mean? If you need to, you know what I mean? Like people, no one's like just like the perfect little
Well,
like
I mean,
flower who
it is.
floats on
It's
it. You know what I mean? So I think that like all my parents and
weird.
sisters, you know fish and all sorts of things. Take care of animals. And, you know, but.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
just nurturing, like allowing for nurturing. Like I don't think I saw that, and that's why I got to think about this difference between nurturing and defense. Like I think there's something.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah. I think if you want to be a good nurturer, you have to be able to defend. You know what I mean? But at the end of that, you have to let your kids fight for yourself. You don't think so? But I know that like the reason why like I
Hold
think
on.
mother grizzly bears are the more aggressive ones because they're in charge.
Let's get Elizabeth's comment in here. This is really good. Elizabeth says wrong. Individuals don't exist. That is correct. Elizabeth has learned individuals don't exist. Right. So-called people do not need to help themselves. How can a non-existent individual help him or herself? We create each other. Yes,
I know, but then there's
correct.
a we. There's a me who helps create you, and then you that helps create me as well. You know what I mean? So I mean, in order for
that didn't exist. Right. That's still impossible.
There is no
situation.
Me.
That's
I mean, like
correct.
I honestly, I was writing about
no.
something today, and I think that like they're the best way I can think about this is in a very like materialist sort of way is that there is one self, and that it's given a specific existence through like through constrained frames. And I know it sounds crazy, and I'm like, oh, that's just from my videography background, but like that's not. I don't think that's actually such a weird idea. I've heard other people talking about it.
To hold the whole, I used to really like spy movies, and I used to hold the whole secret agent thing. Like I played secret agent as a kid. I held that as an ideal in my mind for like a really long time, and then I have a video now that is individualism is cowardice, and the thing about James Bond, man, and like this is the movie based. It's not necessarily book based. I don't know anything about the books, but like that whole rogue with no family who's undercover, he don't got shit to lose except his body, and that's nothing in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
It's just nothing.
Human body.
I understand that now as being a whole different thing.
I think there's nothing more precious than a human body in a way. I mean, and that's why I'm not saying you should give your body up to something, but that's kind of like the point is that it is like this really valuable thing that you have to give up to God.
Yeah, well, it's the thing is that okay, the flesh that we're made out of does have its value, but it's supposed to be integrated into bigger units. It's supposed to be integrated into a larger spiritual body, right? And so this is another point. This is another point where Mark has ticked me off, right? He's ticked me off by reinventing principles of Catholic social teaching, just pulling it out of his hat or out of that stupid eyeglass or whatever.
Here's the thing.
No, I haven't finished, Sally.
Oh, sorry.
He said that families are the smallest unit in society. And it's like, dang it, Mark, you got that right out of the compendium of the social doctrine of the Catholic Church. How did you just come up with that? I know for a fact you didn't read that book. And so when Sally was talking about, the only thing that James Bond has to lose is his body, what she really meant was the only thing he had to lose was his flesh, right? And there's a certain fittingness into, okay, we've got this guy, he's smart, he's charming, he's a good fighter, but we just can't keep him pinned down to everything. What can we do with him? Well, the only thing we can do with him is just throw him at our nation's enemies because he isn't really good for much else. Right? Because he can't participate in a larger body than just himself.
Yeah, his one night stands.
I had when I so prior to becoming a parent, my dad was older, so a lot of my relatives are older, and I had been experiencing an existence where members of my family just kept dying, and I was kind of on the end of a chain, and so the back of the chain it keeps dying, like little bit, gone. When you have a kid, all of a sudden you're in the middle. And so no longer are you one side touching out or one side touching back. You're suddenly in the middle. And then you transform, because it is that the body is valuable, but your body is no longer your body, because you're also this little like 8-pound little quivering mass of the newborn. And especially as a woman, your neurosystem, like when that child cries, it's inside of you in an indescribable way. It's so completely inside of you, and you are as vulnerable as that. And then if you can really let yourself process that all the way through to your parents, that's you.
You can really let yourself process that.
Like you are your parent, baby, to your parents. And like, yeah, it's arms, but like that just absolute connectedness. You're not just yourself and your body. Your body is part of a bigger thing. And I hope you have a kid, and I hope you experience that, because it's
in your body. Your body is part of a bigger thing.
Can't even explain.
Right. And what you're talking about there, I think, is exactly what you're trying to point at, is seeing the protecting and the nurturing being two different things. And like
Different.
Human beings have been specializing for I don't know how long, but like we need to specialize on these things because we don't have the capacity to handle all of everything all of the time, right? So it's like, okay, you specialize in lead, protect, and provide, and the other specializes blah, 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 on this nurturing business because I can't do that.
And this is the thing, can defend. She can, but then it inhibits her ability to nurture. And some of the ways in which I am for sure more masculine, and I look at women who are not, and they have this grace and they have this softness that is, I have fractions of it in comparison. Me trying hard, taking 3 years to prepare for motherhood between my prior things that I did with intent, only still has fractions of it. And I see it really clearly. And it's just how it is. And like, I have to like not stress about things that are lost and just be like, okay, what can I do now? And I think a lot about how I'll treat my son's wife so she won't have to be like how I am, because I can't just not be myself. I mean, sometimes I go into despair mode and just have like lament depression, but that's not useful. So I kind of have to be myself. And it's not because women can't, but it's because there's a cost if they do. And that's the same with a bunch of things women can do. Oh yeah, they can do it. They can probably do it well, and it'll cost. Just like it freaking cost my knees to keep up with the guys. So.
Right, and that's the cost problem. Is that it just certain things cost more for women and certain things cost more for men, and it just so happens that if we cooperate and balance that out correctly, we both make out better, and everybody doesn't like, well, we should be equal. That sounds horrible. Why would we want that? I'd rather get an efficient system where I get something out of it and the other person gets something out of it, instead of this horrible system where we all get exactly the same thing out of it and we all suffer more. Like that sounds terrible. But the real question is, did Elizabeth figure out which tab to close so that she's no longer leaking audio, lagged audio all over my stream? No, she hasn't figured it out. It's the tab to the left, Elizabeth. No, headphones would be good, but just close the tab that has YouTube open, or pause the YouTube stream, and then you won't have that problem. And hopefully John can bring his game down.
It's not my game. The TV was on in the living room when no one's even there. So I don't know.
I saw a YouTube video this week.
I don't know.
Which was absolutely hilarious. It was, the whole setup was that you had these two tech YouTubers and their wives had to build a computer using only their videos as guidance, right? And it was a competition. And the guys had come up with like all of these different metrics for scoring and judging, the quality of their computer build, right? Not 2 minutes into the competition, the ladies are already giving each other tips on where they've gotten and how to build these things. And it was just like, don't you see that this is a competition? Why would you be helping? You should be like covering up your work so she can't see what's going on, right? But it's just, so they ended up
They're
tying
very
at the very
cooperative.
yeah, and I think, I mean, it was funny. It was funny to watch. It was kind of delightful to watch. But they would have to have, hardened themselves in a way to not do that. They would have to have,
Right.
at least for a time, suppressed their impulse to cooperate together in order to be competitive enough to try and take an advantage in order that the other person would be disadvantaged. And if that doesn't come naturally to you, then you kind of have to do violence to yourself in order to make that happen. But if it does come naturally to you, then it's a lot of fun when you win. Violence to yourself.
Nope, she still
That's
hasn't
insightful, yeah.
closed the right tab. It's the tab to the left with the YouTube open. It's the browser tab. Come on, Elizabeth, you've done this before. How come you've forgotten how to do it? It's weird, brother. Like
Suppress your conversations and close the tab.
It's because what you said was, to some extent, women cooperate to build a larger body, and it's almost as if they know how to build bodies or something. It's very strange. Like I don't.
Their bodies know how to build bodies.
Yeah, it's that cooperation.
I don't know what you say. Whatever.
Well, that's why we can't have nice things, right? Because you need to cooperate to build a body, and nobody wants to cooperate, and so no bodies are being built. It's not that. It's like,
Oh yeah,
that's why we can't have nice things. Everybody wants to be lied to. They can be a victim. They can have been lied to. Right? That's having mode.
I don't want any of that.
They want to be the hero, right? They want to go off on their own, right? They want their own YouTube channel. They want the blah, 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 my.
The world would be 10 times easier if people were just upfront with their intentions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like,
well, they don't know their intentions.
They know with their hands. They just mess the whole thing up, thinking that's going to help things. I don't even know what they're thinking when they do that.
No,
really.
Jordan Peterson.
Like,
you don't know what you're up
to. In a spirit? Like, do you believe in hell? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
No, but it's worse. It's you don't know what you're up to. You can't share your true intentions with people if you don't know what they are, and you probably don't. And that's the scary part. That's what no one wants to hear. But also, that's what's going on, guys. Like, it's very hard. Like, I can't. Like, what am I up to with my live streams? Like, so many things I could list. Right, but I don't know. So many things I could list.
I understand.
Right,
Elizabeth.
No, she didn't fix it. It's the other tab, Elizabeth. The one to the left. Not the screen you're on. It's the screen with the YouTube on it, not the screen with the StreamYard on it.
Just go call your husband to help you out, Elizabeth.
She's done it before. I don't understand. Like,
we believe in you.
She was here last week and it was fine. Like, how can she not do what she did last week? What is going on? Why is the world? This is the chaos. It's the Muppet Storm personified in Elizabeth. Elizabeth really is chaos too.
At least it's not me. I'm glad.
Elizabeth is chaos personified. Like, if you hang out with Elizabeth, you will know that what I am saying is true.
No, I put on your chat last week and it was funny. I was like, no, you have a lovely energy. It was fun.
She's great. Yeah. Ethan. Well, thank you very much, Ethan. Stopping in for a second while I wait in line. Check out this crew tonight. Sally Feather, Eric, dude that thought Mark was in jail. No, he didn't think I was in jail. The guy he thought I was is in jail.
Yeah.
Also,
there was a lot of weird coincidences. Like, the odds of that happening are like very slim. Like, I don't know. Of all the coincidences in my schizophrenic brain,
for Pete's sake, there are no coincidences. Look, I did a wedding a few weeks ago, right? I did a wedding a few weeks ago. The bride had my last name. We're not related. I don't have a common last name. Yeah, it's not a common last name. And somehow the bride and the groom came to me and asked me to do their wedding and had the exact same last name, not related at all. And her uncle's a bishop.
Really?
That's cool.
Yeah. He wasn't at the wedding, unfortunately.
I've never.
I would have wanted to
met
have a
him.
photo with him.
I've looked it up, but yeah, it's because my name is misspelled. It's Krieger misspelled, somewhere along the line. So
Probably at Ellis Island.
Ellis
Probably.
Island, you think? I know.
I
my
think
family
they were
my-
dealing
my-
with like
my dad's family arrived in the United States. What was it, like 1890 or something like that? Like late. It was like right at the turn of the century before. So I don't know.
Ellis
live
Island
in
would have
Ohio.
still been in. Yeah, I mean, they were dealing with like a boat that had 1,000 people coming in, and I think they were just understaffed and underpaid government officials, and they just kind of wrote things down quickly.
Sloppy handwriting. Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure that
Pronunciations.
in the old country, I don't think my family would have been named Sites, but at Ellis Island, he probably just got a new name. Happens in the Bible. Why can't the U.S. government do it too?
Do you guys know why so many
Giving
African Americans
people a new
have the
name.
last name, African Americans, Black people, whatever, have the last name Jackson? Do you guys know where that comes from? Like, yeah, that's my
Andrew
my mom's
Jackson?
name.
They adopted.
Am
yeah, they
I a
adopted
descendant?
American.
No, I don't know.
They adopted
Like,
American
I
names.
wonder because I'm like, I feel like there is a lot. Like I know.
No, they adopted American names. A lot of immigrants adopted
And Andrew-
American names.
Okay.
And Andrew Jackson was a very popular president, so it's probably
Okay.
just. And Andrew Jackson was a very.
He hasn't fixed it yet. Yeah, he
Put
was
on
a
pair of
popular president.
headphones, Elizabeth.
No, she doesn't need headphones. She just needs to click the tab. She's done it many times before successfully. We just don't know why she can't do it today for some weird reason.
Just give Mark remote access to your computer.
That's true.
You might
Now it's
just
coming from somewhere else.
you have a different browser.
Maybe.
But she's muted now, and
It's
it's
muted.
coming through again. All righty, is it working? It stopped. It's the both of you now.
Okay. Do I close, or which one do I close?
It's the both of you
The
now.
YouTube one. You close the YouTube that you had open. When you first got on the stream, you there's a YouTube thing. It says YouTube. That's the one you close. You don't close the duck. You close the red thing with the white triangle in it.
The evil red triangle.
The evil red triangle.
The evil red triangle. I said it. I also have a YouTube channel. I also watch
with a
silly
book
videos
club
on YouTube with a book club about Moby Dick. We'll get out onto the ocean soon enough.
Moby Dick is going
But speaking
swimmingly well.
Yeah. Oh gosh. It exceeded expectations. So, speaking of swimming, I'm going to go swimming in the seas of chaos. Going to go lie in bed and hallucinate vividly for a couple hours. So, all of you, all
Good night,
behave yourselves.
Good to see you. All right, let's try Elizabeth again and see what happens. Are you still like lagging? No,
I don't understand.
I think you're fine. You're fine. You got it. It's perfect. Yay. Talk to us. Tell us things.
No.
We
Oh,
hear
you can't hear us. Can you hear us now?
That's so weird.
We can hear you. We hear you. No problem. This
Is mine echoing weird too? Is mine
No,
good?
yours sounds your gain's too high. We're still picking stuff up on you, John. Yeah, I don't know why. It's hard to tell. I like Discord better because it turns green.
Am I on, dear?
Yeah, you're on. We can hear you.
Get this. Do I usually
Unplug your
use this?
headphones.
I don't
Let's see if it's
remember.
still.
Things are really chaotic in Canada right now, just so you all know. Things are
What's going
strange
on?
up here. It's just everybody feels like it's chaotic. Like
It is
everything's-
chaotic.
But everything's chaotic. People's bodies are chaotic and their perceptions. But I love what Sally said about space. It's so critically important we understand whatever. Can you say more, Sally, in the idea of protection and the protection of the space? That's beautiful.
The invisible feminine, because I think the feminine was really invisible to me for a long time. I think lots of it still is. Like, what does that mean? I realized, listening to some other stuff go down, my mental image of the feminism is about as good as a drag queen's a lot of the time, because it's just this strange concoction. I don't actually know this extent of it. One of the things that I realized, and this is so vague, I have such a vague idea of this, that women do is like this making of this nurturing space. And I don't quite understand it, because I know what it is to build a thing. I know what it is to set up a thing. But welcoming into that is kind of foreign. And I watch some women do it so well. And it's a matter of setting the table. It's a matter of making sure everyone has napkins. But it's not any of those things. Like, it's those things, but it's none of those things. Because you could do it on a park bench with nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, they could. And I don't know that I don't know if I could do it with a royal China tea set Queen of England, because I don't quite, when I do it, it's an artificial, like, I got an instruction manual on it, but I don't know the presence of it. And so I can carry on the facade of it. I can try. It's easier with kids. I can do it with kids because kids are simpler. You can see their need more directly. Like, you can do it with like when I babysit, it's easy to know because I go in and out of making things possible for a 5-month-old versus a 5-year-old versus a 12-year-old.
But they're in you. Kids are in you. You said that earlier.
When the 12-year-old comes, I get out the coloring. When the 5-month-old comes, we pick up the marbles. Like, and there's an awareness to that, and there's an awareness to set it. It's almost like it's a choreography of life. It's like a choreography of what to do with the household. And like, it's like we have all the pieces of the household. We got the spoons and the forks and the computer and stuff. But we've lost the choreography.
Right. The dance is gone.
And that's really, I think that's part of the materialism problem, because you can have them. It's so funny, right? Because we have more for the household than ever. When I was super pregnant, I was sick. So I was like nesting, but couldn't do anything. And so I watched a lot of like how to do your house and like the minimalism. I went through that whole thing. And it's very strange that we have more than we've ever had materially in America, but less. Because people have all the fixtures, but they don't have the dance of the fixtures, and actually having a lot of fixtures to dance harder. And like when Wallace was, or when my kid was 4 to 5 months old, or no, even older. Like right after he started to walk, and really getting around, I was really stressing about not being able to keep the house clean, because they're fast and you're trying to keep them from eating bugs and stuff. And I was just absolutely overwhelmed. And then I'm looking at like how to keep a good house and like how to clean. And one of the things that was out is like, literally, we just have so much stuff that being a housewife is hard. Like we never have ever. And so I not quite immediately, but very quickly, because my husband and me went a little crazy with the first kid, and we didn't have money like we had when we had our kid when we were kids. So we were like, the best toys, the learning toys, this toy, that toy. And when I reduced the toys, he was happier. I could get everything put away every night. We were just happier. And I went through a whole really reconsidering everything in the house phase. And I don't do minimalism, but I really appreciate it, because you should think through everything you have like once or twice a year. and it's a lot of work. And
but Sally, I wanna break in here. What you're talking about is more stuff is not better. That's the mistake of materialism, right? We're measuring quantity over quality, and the problem with quantity, when you increase quantity, you spread out quality,
right,
and
right.
now you don't have enough.
And that works with ideas just exactly the same as it works with spoons.
Yep, it works with everything, right?
I'm not sure if there isn't quality kind of spiritual in a way, like not physical. I'm not sure how directly related they are. You know what I mean? Where it's like the quality gets divided.
Yeah, it's not.
You know what I mean?
It's not physical. That's right. It's
Well,
the opposite of
but the
physical in some
idea.
sense.
So you can have many ideas. Like you can have all the psychological facts. You can have all the neuroscience facts. You can have all the reports of all the doctors. And if you can't use them good, it's just like having so many spoons, you can't hold them. It's better to have one freaking spoon and know how to use it really, really well than have all the spoons. And I'm just using that example because it's good to grab a hold of it. But this whole more information thing, I'm still grappling with it. I've been thinking about it for 3 months. And it's like...
That video's coming. Don't worry.
More information will not help. And when you realize that and you've been trying to self-fix by getting more information and you realize more information will not help, you reach a point where more information will not help. It's not the same as when Dr. Peterson said because like one of the things he talks about with his map of meaning or his personality lectures is when people watch them, they get words for the things they already knew. That's not the same as more information will not. If you don't have the words for the things you already know, that's when you pursue knowledge. But once you know something, more information will not help.
Well, the more information you have, the more connections you can make. But the more invalid connections you can make. Yeah. And that's the problem, is that now you're in a flood of information and you're in chaos and you're lost because there's more information and you can't get out of it necessarily. And if you don't want to submit to having information given to you in a structure, then what happens is you try to take on the job of putting information in the proper structure, and then you end up in conspiracy land.
Well, and it's like you can learn how to dance, but you can learn how to tap dance, you can learn tango, you can learn how to polka, you can learn. It's much better to pick one and do it well, or maybe 3, but not all of them. You don't want to be doing all the dances. Like that's like with housekeeping. There got to an end of it where like I was really into it, but I had looked into it because I was into the It Sparks Joy lady, and then it occurs she doesn't have an American house.
I like her.
But she's very interesting, but like she does not have an American house, and she especially doesn't have a rural American house because there's 2 more categories that are like 2 or 3 or 4 more different categories for non-apartment. Because like there's your garden, there's your tools, there's these other categories. So it doesn't matter how well you can use her stuff. That's not the dance that I have to dance. Like, and this is with everything. And that's why knowing the dance of your family, even if you don't want to be an exactly photocopy of your family, might be more useful than some exotic, wondrous, really inclusive, whatever. Because if you're not there, the dance for there,
you can't understand it.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the clothes you wear. Like I think it's really important to wear the clothes for where you're from or the culture you're from. And like if you travel, I think it's very much behooves you to look around at what the locals are wearing and see if that would help you while you're there, not forever, but like while you're there. Jeans don't work good in South Korea. It's gross. It's a gross situation because they suck in the moisture and bad. And I had to learn. Now, rural America, doing cowboy stuff, that's all you want to wear because anything else is crazy.
You get bugs, scratches. Yeah. No,
So
No, go ahead. I was gonna say something.
no, go, John.
No, I was gonna say I have tons of bug bites all over my body from like walking around like barefoot and crawling through stuff, and I have scars over my arms from that. But whatever, yeah, because don't always dress properly, but I like being barefoot. I like touching the ground, so whatever. Yeah. Feels good to like be like, yeah, that's there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but what you're saying is fundamental, Sally, because it is the home is the place of life. It's the space of life. It's where space can where life can exist, in fact. So your idea of the spoon is profound. The one spoon, it's beyond profound what you've just said, because you're talking about reality and the limits of
Right.
of human, I'd like to say consciousness, even though I don't really know what it means, but it's the limits of human consciousness.
Yeah.
In fact, and it's fault, and it's pride. It's just we're just oozing with sick pride, because who are we to think we need more than one spoon?
Right.
Who are we? We went awry way before we think. Because once you've lost what you just said, you've lost everything. You're already veering off the patterns, and so right. You don't need. In fact, the material things, the material things in a sense don't exist. They exist right. because in relation to you only. And that's what the ancient right. people all understood. And my people on the island who don't read or write still understand that.
That's right, but that's fundamental, Elizabeth, because this is the observer problem in physics. Physics knows this. Physicists right. under quantum, right. all the quantum stuff is dependent upon the observer problem, which right. is if you're not there, things don't happen. And I wanted to point out one other thing before Sally jumps back in. The spoons is perfect. It's a perfect way of understanding. There's 3 conditions: too many spoons, 1 spoon, and then there's the Matrix. There is no spoon. The Matrix is fundamentally a nihilistic movie, and it states it right there with there is no spoon, right? Because you're fundamentally in a simulation, and that simulation is fungible, right? And it's fungible by the special person, right? And all these themes come out, and that's why, to Sally Jo's point, the spoon is kind of perfect. So go ahead, Sally Jo. I know you've been chomping at the bit.
Isn't it interesting that we have a housing crisis and not a home crisis?
Right. Well,
because
yeah,
we might have a home crisis.
A domicide. The domicide. John Vervaeke talks about domicide. Everybody goes, "Oh, I know what domicide is," and it's like, "Oh, yeah. But do you? Do you?"
I think we all kinds of houses and not a lot of homes, and that's a problem, because a house, and everyone knows this, and your dog knows it too. You can have a house that is not a home. Right. Lots of people live in them, it's really sad. And you can have the shittiest freaking van truck by a river, and it can be a home. And it's like, how does that work? And
that's the domicide. That's the domicide. And people
there's very few homes. I would like to see a home in North America. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever been in a home in North America. I'm sorry.
Elizabeth, I was dying last time you were on the stream, because there is some parts and some things to America. It's not the feminine and masculine you're used to, but it exists. It's places. It's in the hinterland. It exists. It's strong. People that are still having 9, 10 kids and carrying on, and that's just the way it.
Yeah, the Americans are different. You people are very different than we. Oh yeah, you are. You're very different.
Than we're very different.
Go west though, go out west to the prairie, and it's like there's a reason they're out there away from y'all.
but Sally, I think the problem is that, from our perspective, Canadians are different, and they're it's not. Right? It's really bad. Well, they grow up in completely different climate, completely.
Yeah, right there. because
Yeah.
because how does a family exist when you never see your neighbors for 8 months a year? Well, you know what it's
Yeah,
like,
sad.
Molly.
Right.
But no, I was using hyperbole to make a point, and I think it's fair. When I say things like that, I'm not being mathematically correct. I'm not intending to be. I'm being literary. I mean, I'm pointing my finger in a very acute way because I think there's an acute problem, as you do. And there's no question that that's the case. We're all drowning in house. So to your point, we are drowning in house. Like, period.
There's interesting, like you can't be in more than one room at once, and you can't be. I learned this about pants. You can't be in more than one pair of pants. And this was something that occurred to me because I had some friends, a much lesser financial state than me, growing up, and my mom would take me to go clothes shopping, and we'd have to get all these clothes, and it wasn't. I just wanted this one kind of. I just wanted Wranglers. Okay, that was my dreams as a teenager. I just wanted real Wranglers. Not third hand. I just wanted real Wranglers that fit me. And my friend, who was like all the teenagers had to work all summer so they could afford to go to high school, kind of poor, and she had Wranglers that were like her size. And I was like, how do you have them? And she's like, you only need 3. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you need a good pair, a bad pair, and a washing pair. And I'm like, what? And it just, they all only had 3 pairs. And it's true because you can't wear more than one at once. And so, like, even if one's in the wash, like, you really only have to have 3, like, really, to make it in, like, everyday society practically. And that just changed my life. Like, the extent to which that changed my life. Like, and I think about that with lots of things now. Like, if I want a better thing, and, like, you don't have to have a bunch of them. And I think we've had a lot of compensation with materially, like, we just lost the bar somewhere. It's better to have 3 good pairs of pants than 25. It is 3, not 25. And it's just like, I don't know. I lost track somewhere with my, got wrapped up in my childhood, and I'll stop now because I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah, but no, these are all really important ideas. The spoon and the 3 pairs of pants. There you go. Like that's it. And 3 is pretty luxurious, actually. So I just and what it does is it takes up. We've lost the sense of our how limited we are. In fact, talk about combinatorial explosiveness. Oh my gosh, we are all combinatorially exploded. Like, no, seriously, because when you come from a place when you have the contrast, it's just shocking, and you can see how it's degraded the human essence, if you like, into zombie land. Up here, everybody's a zombie. Sorry, Sally, but they are. Everybody's a zombie up here. So that's that.
Is that the zombie screaming in the back?
There's a Sally.
No, but
zombie
seriously,
screaming
like,
in the back.
we like a spoon. We really, this is probably one of the most important ideas, in my opinion. The spoon is really critically important. People lived with one spoon.
Yeah.
Well, and what's great about this spoon is it's one of those tools that's the extension of the self. And we have a different relationship to the tools that are extensions of the self. A shovel, a hammer, a screwdriver. Fun thing about a spoon is you use it to care for children. You use it to care for yourself. You use it to cook for the group. And so it's very universal, but it works with lots of things. But I do think that's why it's the thing in the Matrix. And it didn't not occur. I better go. I have other commitments. Have a good night.
Nice to
See you,
see you,
Sally.
Sally.
Thank you.
I really
Elizabeth,
like
we
your
got to
idea.
talk some.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I can talk. Oh, anyway, tell her, Mark. I can talk when I'm in. I can talk when I'm in Sicily. It's that the reason I don't come on the live stream is because of the timing. It's not because of the internet connection. It's the timing.
Right.
It's if it's 6 hours, so you start, at 1 a.m, and usually that's not when I'm awake. So yeah, but I love her idea of making space for nurturing. I mean that ties in perfectly to the idea of home, right? I mean it's the womb, right? It's the womb.
Right.
I mean, yeah, go into any Catholic church and there you see it.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's like facing problems within a safe environment, because the nurturing is the growth, and so you're in a safe space, and then you face problems, you know what I mean, like in front of you, that like it's not going to hurt you, it's not going to kill you, but you can learn how to deal with it. You know what I mean? Until you get to the last step where it's like it might kill you.
Yeah, but beyond a safe space, because I don't even know if we know what that means anymore. To be quite honest, I don't know if they exist. Well, I do use hyperbole, you all understand, but I don't know if they exist. I don't know if safe spaces exist here. To be honest, I don't know how you people feel when you go out in the street or when you go to a shop. I feel constantly that I'm having to protect myself for one reason or another. Will somebody behave so inappropriately that it'll put a dagger in my heart, for example? I mean, just common comportamento, right? Common behavior. It's gone. It's like elegant behavior is gone. I mean, people do try, but we're so far away from it that even when people are trying, I live in a smaller place and people are definitely trying a little bit, but it's not the real thing. It's an abstract in a way, right? It became a concept and then was subjectivized, and that's not the same thing.
Right.
I don't know. So what's going to happen when everything goes to hell, which is where we're headed if we're not there already, as you said?
Well, yeah, you're there already in Canada for sure. There's no question about that. Right.
Oh yeah.
It's as clear as day in Canada.
We've been there for about 20 years, right? So yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
but
it's been a while.
But it's not.
A lot of people are they're ignoring the chaos, right? They're saying, "Oh, we haven't. There is no chaos, right? This person's in charge, and it's this complicated explanation that's actually holding the world together." And it's always been this way, and then that's totally nonsense, right? Like, no, and this is like the people that believe the president was running the country. I'm like, that's never happened in the history of this country. I don't know who told you, like, where did you get to that? Let's see what Sally says. Sally, you might have to come to my basement, Elizabeth. Oh goodness, I've been to her basement.
Cool.
It's scary.
Oh, have you?
It's freshly functional. Well, it was okay when I was there. I mean, it definitely needed some work, but she's been doing a lot of work to it. So yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Oh, you were in Sally's basement?
Yeah. When I went to Thunder Bay.
Oh, right. You stopped in.
Well, stopped. I went way the hell out of my way. It's more like what happened, but yes. Yep. Sally says it can be better. Yeah, everything can always be better. It's okay.
Oh, as long as does it have a ceiling?
Oh yeah. No, it's
that's fine. That's a home. That's a home if it has a ceiling.
No, she's fine. I'm building a tiny house in it slowly.
Wow.
I don't know if that's an apt enough description, but yeah, she's got it. She's got it pretty well dialed in. She's almost there. But it's beautiful out there. There's nothing there. It's like when nothingness needs to be alone, it goes to where Sally is. That's pretty much how that works. Yeah, it's
got a crossbow if you want to come out here. It's not mine, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, before Thunder Bay, I went to Sally's for a few days, and then I drove out, picked Ethan up at the airport in Minneapolis.
You guys see each other? I didn't know you guys actually met each other in person ever. Honestly, I was worried that like this thing was like, I don't know. I always want people to like spend a lot of time like meeting each other in person. You know what I mean?
I've met Elizabeth in person 3 times.
Oh,
I've
cool.
met Sally in person twice, including staying at our house for a few days. I've met Adam in person twice.
Father Eric.
I've met Father Eric. Well, Father Eric spent a week at my house, so we're. Yeah, I went up to DC, right, when he graduated last year, or finished his semester.
No, it's cool. I knew you guys had a relationship, but it's cool to like know how connected you guys are. That like gives me comfort, I guess.
Yeah, I've met up with Bruce before. So many people, like so many. I've been around Vanderclay like three or 4 times. So,
I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah, no, Vanderclay is like the center. He's cool.
I met Joey. So that was nice. Finally met Joey. That was nice. Got to do that again.
Well, so where's it all going? Where's it
what all
going
going?
right now? Like, where's Dr. Peterson going and Jonathan Pajot? Do you have a sense? They've kind of dropped off my radar, and I can't figure out why. I just don't watch them anymore.
Well, Peterson's not going anywhere. He's in evaluation mode. Pajot is sort of figuring out his next move, right? While still pushing sort of the orthodox solution of go to church, which, again, yeah. Sally. Jacob has stayed in my basement too. That's right. Jacob went out to Sally's place as well. Yeah, I think the problem is that Peterson and those guys are stuck, right? Because they haven't made Final Cause great again, right? They're not Tila's first people yet, and so they don't have a way to enact where to go, right? That's a problem.
Wait, like they are doing things, you know what I mean? Like Pajot's writing a bunch of kids stories. I heard
everyone's doing things all the time. Like this is the worst argument of all time. Everyone's doing things all the time. That's not impressive. That's the normal.
I think in a few years, like I don't know. I feel like there'll be a film. Like Peterson, I know, wrote a screenplay. I think something's gonna happen with that. I know. I don't know. Hey, I don't know.
Something's gonna happen.
I feel like it's going.
Yeah, something's gonna happen. I agree. And something's been happening. I also agree. But like that doesn't say anything about what it is and how good it will be and what direction it goes in. And like all the interesting questions are not answered by the fact that things happen in the world. Like, yeah, things happen in the world.
Yeah. I know one day Peterson's gonna come out. I don't know this, but he's gonna walk out on stage with like a gold cane, and that's how we know it's game over. Like an eagle on it. It's gonna be like, oh yeah.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I don't know that there's going to be like a lot of these guys are talking about Kairos moment and all that nonsense. And, to some extent I invoked it today and not before, interestingly.
Maybe not an eagle, something else. Sorry.
So I think the problem is that Peterson in particular, but maybe Pajot to some extent. I don't know. I'd love to talk to him at some point. They've reached the end of what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They hit the end, like they hit the boundary,
right?
And Pajot, right? I mean, well, you were at the conference, the Symbolic World Summit, which we have a video on. Pajot, to some extent, like he's got to make a decision about which way to move. Right now, I'm pretty sure he's gonna, move towards more Summit, which would be great because I'll go again. Obviously, if I can afford it, I'll be there.
I thought you meant symbolically. What do you mean by What do you mean Summit?
Well, he's going to have another Symbolic World Summit.
Oh, got you.
Like he's going to do it again, right?
Yeah.
Well, that puts him on a path of creating in-person community, right?
Yeah.
Which is that's a relatively good move in general. I think that's part of. I was thinking about that today about community. I was thinking about that earlier today because it came up in my head. So I've actually got to pitch something, probably next Wednesday, to someone about that because they're we're doing this community thing, and I'm like, this isn't a community thing. But you know what? There's ways to do it, right? There's definitely things you could do that would foster community beyond, say, physical space, because a physical space does not make a community. And people are confused about that because the materialists are in kind of full force still, right? And
talk about Israel,
right? But if you think about materialism and enchantment, what is more enchanting to a materialist than to hold up a spoon and say there is no spoon?
Right.
That's peak enchantment. That's the Matrix. That's why the Matrix has been really moving everything since it came out. It probably cannot be overstated how important that one particular film is.
Right.
And hopefully Jesse's watching or will watch. and and we gotta get that video done. I know we got some notes too. I gotta go review those. And
Well,
and,
it's
and
forgotten, but it's definitely like permeated like the culture in a lot of ways. I guess mostly like the sequels, but the idea with the whole pills and the waking up, you know what I mean? The whole thing.
We're using Matrix language now.
Different, you know what I mean? That's like
yeah, we're using Matrix language now. And when did that movie come out? We're using it today. We've modified some of the language. We're still using language from that movie.
Yeah,
that's pretty significant.
Yeah. No, I'm saying it is. Yeah.
Right,
I'm saying
and we're using it.
It's more like the first one.
Right, but we're using it to just but we're using it to describe the world that we exist in. We're using a movie about a simulation to describe the world we exist in today. Right? That's I like it. You know, you could say like, oh, we still use lines from National Lampoon's Vacation. Sure, whatever, bro. You know, I still use badges. We don't need no sticky, right? Those aren't relevant to reality, right? But the Matrix language that we use and formulations that we use, we're using them to represent the real world still today. Now, I would argue they're all terrible in many, many ways, right? And the idea is, to some extent, you ingest a pill and change your perspective on the world and become enlightened, right?
Like with the glasses that allows you to see the forget. I don't remember the name of the movie. They Live. Is that what it is? They have the glasses. Is that what it is?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, yeah. He sees the glasses and he sees like everyone's actually aliens controlling everything.
Yeah. There's all kinds of tropes like that, but like it's the Matrix. It's really
reality.
It's the Matrix.
It always happens. And how people not realize that this is going to happen again. You know what I mean? It's the reason why it's a repeating pattern. It just if you can wake up to it, you know what I mean. It's hard for people to do that though, because that's why it's the whole archetype. Is you don't even want to believe it, because like if that is true, you have to change your entire perspective about how the world works. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's so
or you don't.
Like, what, these people?
Or you can avoid the problem and just submit, and then the problem never appears, and then you never have to solve it.
Oh no,
and nobody likes that answer.
In those archetypes, is the aliens that are going to destroy the world, and both of them, it's the outside aliens who are going to mess everything up. I mean, they have their own wants, and they're using people
But that's true. It always. But that's true. But that's true. It always is the outside that messes up your internal world. Right. That's called reality. That's what objects.
Yeah.
Right. Well, everybody says like, well, I'm objective or whatever, and it's like the thing that objects to you is reality. And everyone's like, well, we don't know how to determine reality. What's objecting to you? That's it. That's reality. It's not hard. And everybody makes it hard, but it's like, no, that's not a full definition, but reality objects to your subjective experience. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And that's super important to realize. Right. And that's what people don't want to realize. Like, sure, you can worry about the patterns, and obviously navigating patterns, like you can worry about all that, and to some extent you have to pay attention to some of it, maybe, right? But also, no, you actually don't. You can just be told which patterns to play out and how, and be content.
Yeah, absolutely. This is yeah, you're right. This is already luxury, man. This is like, this live stream is luxury plus. Nobody's going to believe it in 200 years. Nobody will believe this when because it's all got to disappear, right? It's got to go. It's all got to go because it's not sustainable. It's not.
Right.
Talk about not being sustainable. This is not sustainable.
Right.
Even the summit is not sustainable.
The cost
summit is not sustainable. The cost is too great. It's entropy, man.
The cost was too great.
The entropy happening in the world right now is back to the reckoning. Even Jordan Peterson's suits are not sustainable. Sorry.
His suits?
His suits.
Yeah.
His suits. It's not sustainable.
Okay. Yeah.
That's sheer fantasy and indulgence. It has. I'm not being critical. I'm just saying it is. I mean, I do the same thing. You know, I wear too many costumes all the time because we're all lost. We're all profoundly lost. And what it means is, but the cost for that is we've lost our souls, and we've all lost them. So we're wandering around without our souls. I don't know where we've left them. We didn't even see them. We didn't know we left them even, I think. We didn't know we lost them. So here we are, and we have clothes, but we don't have a soul. So the body's hardly making it, as John Vervaeke would tell us. The body is now telling us, right? Even the body can't do this anymore. Gabor Mate, when the body says no. Do you know many people who are going through health problems now, having mental health problems, psychosis? There's an explosion of psychosis.
Like 90%. Yeah.
People not having digestive problems. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I don't know anybody who's like this dear little English lady who took care of us when we were little, Mrs. Boughton. And I think all she had was a cloth handkerchief and a pretty butterfly brooch, and she used to take care of us, and she was magical. She was just magical. She never said a thing. She never said a thing to us. And you know, we were 5 very naughty children when we never disobeyed. My parents would go away. I can't even believe it happened. And we would just, she just was there. She had presence. She had nothing but who she was. Amazing. Yeah. And that's what we've lost. We've lost these people. We've lost those people that we had once. And so we've lost our exemplars. And I'm sorry, I'm getting really aggressive about this, but Peterson, I love them dearly. Jordan Peterson saved my life, and Jonathan Peugeot as well. They were extremely important people, but they are not exemplars. I'm sorry. They're not the exemplars we're looking for.
But they won't take the responsibility.
It's not a criticism. It's not a
They
criticism.
won't take the responsibility for being an exemplar.
Well, because that's one hell of a job. You're doing it, Mark. It's one hell of a job.
Thank you.
Who wants this? Who wants to do what you're doing? Like, even the thing you're wearing on your eye is like, talk about sacrifice. I'm serious.
Oh, I can't see for a good hour after I do it.
I love it. There's always humor, right? There's always
totally
humor.
Worth it. But like, I cannot see. It's very distracting. Even taking, I can't read well because I only have one, eye. And then when I take it off, there's all this blue everywhere, which, on one hand makes me happy. On the other hand, it conflicts with the other eye that doesn't have all this blue everywhere. So it's really distracting, but I think it's worth it. I think it's totally worth it. And then when I get a parrot someday, one of these days, I'm going to get a parrot. I'll put it on the shoulder.
Beyond that though, beyond a parrot, I'm not so sure, Mark. You're verging on the many suits. Now we've
no. The parrot's the parrot would be the final.
The final thing, because I don't know. I think it's important. So maybe what we really should be doing is taking all of our material goods and sending them to people who really need them across the world, like having a giant movement of all material goods to where they're really needed, including food, because everybody's too fat. And I know.
Yeah,
I know I'm being materialistic, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think the big problem is what part of the recession of the church means that the church is no longer feeding people the spiritual components that they spiritual food that they need, and that's a way bigger problem, right? And they used to give that along with the material stuff, but they gave up giving the material stuff in a large way too, and with that means you can't give them the spiritual stuff. And not that you can't absolutely do it, but like they ditch them both at the same time. And that's a big problem. And especially in the US, I don't know how it is in Canada, but in the US, like they practically made it illegal for the churches to do what they used to do in the way they used to do it. And that's a big problem. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, we're living. Yeah. So how long can the world stay upside down before it's
Oh, I wish it were upside down. That would be great. I think the problem with that, I love Jonathan Peugeot. I'm not going to say he's wrong because he's not wrong, but upside down to people because they're thinking symmetrically in a binary fashion because it's the same, they get confused. Upside down does not mean that the rules are reversed. What upside down means is that order is gone.
Nice.
And that's why well, when order's gone, the lowest can be the highest and the highest can be the lowest. But that also means that order is ordering, sequence, structure.
Well, grid, man, grid.
Right. Right. And that's what upside down means. It means structure
I
is
agree with you,
gone.
actually. I agree
And
with you.
that's
It's the
not
grid.
good. Like, because you can't do anything. That's chaos.
Right.
And that right, this is where Peterson takes over. That's the chaos. That's why the age of gnosis is the flood of information. The flood is a chaos, right? And the age of reckoning is where all of that comes down into this, into this restructuring of the world through relearning all the lessons that we already have access to, right? Through things. It's not directed force. It's just things crashing into each other over and over again. I asked my stepfather years and years and years ago. I said, because he had an unrecorded IQ. So that's why when people talk about these smart people, I'm like, I don't recognize your idea of intelligence. It's my stepfather, an unrecorded IQ. There was no question that I could ever find to ask him that he did not have a reasonable answer to, and he could explain it to me, which is even more amazing. Like,
Wow.
yeah, he wasn't like because I mean, he not only did he graduate from MIT, but like I hung out at MIT. Lots of MIT people can't explain their work. I can explain some of their work better than they can for various reasons, but like most people can't explain the things they're expert at. My stepfather could explain everything. So I asked him one time, I said, well, like, what's up with solar systems? Like, solar systems make no sense because you're in three-dimensional space and things are just kind of flying around, right? And he says, well, and I'm oversimplifying this obviously, but I'm not going to be incorrect. He says, basically, the way it works is when you have two objects coming at each other from different angles and they happen to hit, that impact always goes along a two-dimensional plane within the three-dimensional space. In other words, the impact reduces the dimensionality, and that's why solar systems are flat disks. And I was like, oh. And then like I made some simulations on the computer because I mean, they weren't sophisticated. They don't need to be to prove that point. Where you don't need to have high-end graphics or anything like that. And I'm like, oh wow. Like, oh, I see this, right? And that's why solar systems are flat disks within a three-dimensional space. And then if you look at solar systems, they're all at different angles to one another. And that's why, because you've reduced the dimensionality because the flight of the objects has been compressed or flattened, right, into a disk. But that disk is still in three-dimensional space, so the disk can be at any angle.
Whoa.
Right. Bing.
Whoa.
And once you understand that pattern, for example, and you're young, because I think I was 15, these other things that I talk, this is why I don't know how to explain it. I'm like, why don't you know this? This is so easy, right? But it's not easy for me to explain. That's why the YouTube channel. I mean, it's one of the many reasons, but like the big reason for the YouTube channel is how the hell do you explain all this really obvious, clear stuff that was well explained to you when you were younger, mostly, right? That you see and can relate to all the other higher order abstractions and lower order abstractions. How do you explain that to people so that instead of making the world more complicated and more complex, they realize, no, it's very simple. There's a handful of patterns and that's it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's so wow, chapter 32, a handful of patterns. It's good, Mark, because I think no, but seriously, and I've lost track of all your chapters, but a handful of patterns. I can't say enough about that.
You have a book?
That's he's writing.
No, Elizabeth is trying to make me write a book by giving me chapter
on a
titles.
handful of patterns.
Oh.
I think I think that would really help Dr. Peterson with his thinking, to be quite honest, to understand what you were just saying.
I know, I think so too.
Yeah, because but it so jibes with my father's worldview and also with my experience on my little island where I go, because both strangely enough, both my father, who taught thermodynamics, and this fisherman who can't read or write, they both know what you just said. They both understand at in an embodied way that indeed there is perhaps a handful or maybe less of patterns. That's exactly it. So what you're doing is trying to find the underlying grid of it all, right? And that's it. And then once you've got what, and then everything's, and I think you're right. I think because highly intelligent people will often just focus on they're focusing in one area, not because they want to be specialists, but because that's what they're doing, right? They're going deep.
And they want the complicated,
and then nothing makes sense.
Answers. Like they're not interested in simple answers because then everybody has access and they're not special and they wasted all their time going to freaking college. And I'm kind of like, yeah, definitely true. But there's not no utility in it, right? It's not a bad thing necessarily, but it's a bad thing when you do like Kurt Jamungal and you do the theories of everything nonsense. It's like there's no theory of everything.
I like him. I mean, I don't understand what they're talking about most of the time, but I don't. Yeah, because
that means it's enchantment, which is fine. But
he's always talking about string theory, and I'm like, I'm not saying he believes it, but like things like that. I'm like, I've heard. I think I've had that explained to me before. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right. Well, and string theory is the worst answer to a question.
I'm not demeaning it at all. Like it's
right,
cool.
but
I'm just not at that level of math at all.
Right, but string theory is the worst answer to a question that could ever possibly be formulated.
Can you give me a brief?
Yeah, it's really easy. So string theory is supposed to answer the origin of our universe. Right? Now, what that means is basically what happened before the Big Bang, effectively. Okay. And what it does is it says, okay, well, the Big Bang is the result of two brains, they're called, bumping into one another. And it's like, all right, but the problem with that answer is that you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question I asked. What you did was you created a new universe with no origin story and a bunch of new components in it that are unexplained, whose movement is unexplained, whose physics, if you will, is unexplained. And so you've actually increased the number of questions I need to ask to get to the answer I initially requested. Well, like, what's a brain, John?
I have never heard that.
It's like a, effectively, it's supposed to be like a what do I want to say? An extra dimensional surface that's hitting another extra dimensional surface, obviously in a yet other extra dimension. So you've added 3 dimensions? So now you have to explain 3 more dimensions to answer the damn question that I asked. And then you have to invent a new physics to explain the whole stupid thing. And you've got to define all these stupid terms. Like, what the hell is a brain? What's it made out of?
I wonder why I'm getting so mad about that.
What does made out of mean when you're talking about an extra dimensional space? Even I don't know. But you've caused an explosion, a combinatorial explosion of questions because you came up with this complex answer. Which, incidentally, by the way, string theory is based on math from like the 17 or 1800s that was found in a book. And somebody went, oh, we're going to extend the math for this to apply to this. And it's complete bunk garbage, obviously invalid way to do this, which just pisses me off because like there isn't even a mathematical basis for this. Like if you were just using your brain, you'd be like, no, bro. You can't just take that equation and apply it over here because you feel like it and it's like you think it helps you. Like, no, that's not how that works. And that's what they've done. And like, yeah, the more you look into it, the more pissed off you get that anybody came up with that garbage. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I thank you for the explanation because I'm like I said, that's above my pay grade of things I'm.
It's above everybody's pay grade. It's made up fantasy nonsense. You don't live in Brian Greene's head or whoever else buys into this garbage. You don't live there. That's fine. It's beyond your pay grade. Absolutely, it is. I don't want it to be in my pay grade. I don't want to know what goes on in that nightmarish mind.
Yeah,
I got my own problems.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, how's your book club going? Oh, sorry, go. How's your book club going on Pajot's book?
The first one went really well. I'm really
good.
enjoying it. So yeah, no, we're cranking along on language of creation, and it's getting quite a few views. And yeah, no, it's I love it. I didn't know, right? You never know how well this is gonna go, because it's not a normal book.
Right.
It's whoa, a lot of pictures in this thing.
It's a cool book. Yeah.
Oh, it's great, but like it's not a book like any other book that I'm aware of, even. Like I've never seen
I think
it.
there's a lot of unsaid subtlety in it. Like, or it's like the thing that first comes to mind was like the thing they're talking about, like what unifies Stairway and Blade. It like isn't it basically like the fact that you can't link the two things makes it kind of stressful. And it's funny because when you have those two images, they don't say this, but you start thinking Stairway and Blade like someone walking up the stairs with a knife. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yeah.
And then it's like, oh, it's just an incline. Oh, nice sunshine. You know what I mean? It's funny how he flips that. He doesn't say that, but it's like, yeah, just saying Stairway and Blade is scary on itself. So you figure out how they're connected, and it's not so bad. But yeah, it's just funny. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the book is full of stuff like that. Where I'm reading it, and I'm getting a lot of unsaid knowledge, which is nice. You know.
Well, that is the purpose: is to take you out of propositions, right? It's to defeat, in some sense, what John Vervaeke calls the propositional tyranny, which he's partly right about. And it does that with not only with the pictures, but also with the lack of citations, justification. He doesn't justify anything. He just states it. And it's like, either you buy in or you don't. And like, it's that simple. But like, I don't know how you look at that book and not buy in, because it's like, oh yeah, that's correct.
Very practical, straightforward. Yeah.
Definitely correct. Right. But you know, you kind of have to be there, right? Like you kind of have to want to engage up front, because you know, some of these pictures where I'm just trying to find one. I know there's one like right in this area here.
You're probably gonna skip ahead of me because I'm still like not even very far.
Well, I've read the whole book.
I'm many chapters in, but not many.
But like you've got crazy pictures like this, and it's just like, and they're very simple in one sense, but
no, honestly, they're not. Like the first time I was like, he was just posting those symbols. I'm like, what is this? You know what I mean? But then as they read it in the book and they're building up everything, I'm like, oh,
right.
Which is, you know, another way that the book reflects itself in a way.
Right, but and then just looking at the pictures gives you a sense for what it is he's trying to communicate without actually reading these stupid propositions that, you know, it should be obvious. I don't know why these things aren't obvious. We didn't start with propositions. Like babies don't start with propositions even. Like, but like humans didn't start with propositions. That didn't happen. We know this. So I don't.
Yeah, you're almost trying to get the music of everything, and then once you get it, it's like you notice when things are a little off, and you need to update, you know, your signals so things actually fit and map properly. You know what I mean? That's the way I think about it.
Yeah, I mean the only
updating of that musical understanding.
Yeah, the only purpose for propositions is compression to communicate efficiently. Right, but there's a cost to that, and the cost is accuracy and precision, actually, which is ironic because you can only manifest scientific accuracy and precision, which is not full accuracy and precision, right, through propositions. Like it's impossible to do any other way. But I can tell you there's a difference between home and house.
Right.
But I can't use propositions to explain to you accurately and precisely what that difference is.
Yeah, you have to feel
it's not possible.
Yeah.
Family,
yeah. I mean, nicely said. Back to the world of experience, right?
Right. But also, and you know, to give the scientific worldview its due, because we're not doing without it, nor should we, right? Like, home and house are differentiated,
right,
accurately and precisely,
right.
It just you can't state that differentiation. That's that asymmetry. So propositions allow you to draw that boundary, which is good. You need boundaries, right? But and that's accurate and precise, but the description is not possible, and that's not accurate and precise. And so you have to understand what trade-off you're making, what the cost is of the communication.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that communication might be necessary in some cases, but we're using it everywhere when it's not necessary.
Right. That's the master and his emissary. That's exactly it.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I don't have to go to like Sally Joe and say, look, Elizabeth is chaos. I don't have to do that. She's experienced you. So she knows. She knows, right? But if I wanted to talk to somebody else about it who hasn't been in your presence, they may not know. Or if they were in your presence when you were on your best behavior because they didn't see you outside of the conference, right? That's where the problem comes in. Like, but there's no way that I can give them a sense for how fun and exhilarating it is to hang out with you, right? Like I can't. There aren't words to express the Elizabeth experience. They don't exist. and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, that is a very good thing. That's a blessing indeed. We just lost John.
Yeah, we lost John. I don't know. Maybe he got bored, but
there he was.
He might have had
interesting. Has he come before?
Yeah. Oh, look, he's back. He's back.
Do you know John from before?
Yeah, he's been on the stream before. Yeah.
Oh, hi, John. Nice to meet you. I'm Elizabeth, actually. I just have this weird name because I can't change anything once I do something. It just has to stay where it is because I don't have the energy to change anything because I'm doing something else. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's all right. Did you guys cut out too? Because my Wi-Fi went out.
No.
Did you guys? Oh, I just left. Okay. I thought you guys cut out too. Okay. It was just my screen. Okay. Yeah. No.
No, we were just like, where did John go?
Oh, no, sorry. I live out in the country, and so not really out in the country, but like in a small town, you know what I mean? And so sometimes the Wi-Fi can be. It was out for like a week for no reason yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that happens. I lost my entire setup the other night, so these things happen.
Oh, well, glad it's back. Yeah. No, I think I had something to do with like Spectrum working on something. It was nothing weird happening. Something. It was just, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. No, but I'm really.
Sorry, guys. The name, huh?
Oh, sorry. I'm really curious what you two guys think, though. Like, what do you two both have the sense that I don't know, that it's like something fresh is going to come on the scene fast. That's just the way I see it. But I don't know what you two fellows think.
I think it already is. It's happening constantly. I mean, whether they're just talking about like AI, I think people are kind of waking up more to religion. Again, reawakening. And yeah, I think people, especially with like the distrust of the media and stuff like that, I think people are like kind of realizing that there's a lot of things kind of that are controlling things, like the image of things more than they thought. You know what I mean? Actually, I interviewed my deacon the other day, and he even talked about like a story where he was watching something live and then saw on the news like what they're reporting versus the report he was writing that was like different. I shouldn't be repeating this, but like, yeah, but you know what I mean? That was like one of the first time you realize is like, oh my gosh, there's actually like government conspiracies are real. You know what I mean? So like, I think people are going to wake up to that sort of thing, hopefully, before it's too late, because soon they're going to have a bunch of power, or they already do with like the internet and stuff like that. And once they're at that stage, you know what I mean? It's like, well, they can mess things up really fast in a really big way. You know what I mean? Whether it's misleading people, or whatever.
Well, I think Elizabeth, the best way to think about it is that to some extent those things were already there, right? And this is where you don't need to re-enchant the world. The world's already enchanted, right? But you need to re-enchant the world for the person. So re-enchantment is a real phenomena, right? It's very personal, right? But what that means is that if, say, scales fall from your eyes, right? One of the big themes in this particular stream, right? What that means is that people are now going to have to contend with things that they hadn't previously needed to contend with. And that is what's happening now.
Which is gonna send you
Like,
flying.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're gonna like start losing trust in everything at first. And be like everything is a lie, and it's gonna take a while to like work and understand. You know what I mean? I think I mean that's happened with me with atheism for sure. You know what I mean? Like once, or I should say, with my parents' divorce. Like after I thought that like, well, my dad isn't who I thought I was. My family wasn't thought I was. It went to God isn't real. You know what I mean? And life's purposeless. It went all the way down there. And so it sucks, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah, some people collapse.
Exactly.
Yeah, some people have a full collapse when scales are removed because their worldview is based on. I mean, like I said, what do you tell people on Twitter and other places that are posting, "Well, we thought the president was in charge"? It's like, what? How do I disentangle their worldview and let them know that never happened and it was never going to happen? It was never supposed to happen. Did you read like the whole point of this country? Like the president isn't ever supposed to be in charge and has never been in charge. What are you talking about, you lunatic? That would destroy their world.
And execute.
But that would destroy their world. And what are they going to do then?
I mean, I think I don't know. Do you mean like the executive branch or the president in particular?
No, the president. They think the president's in charge. The president was never in charge. The president's not designed to be in charge of the country. That's not how it works in the U.S. I understand that might be how it works in other countries. It's never worked that way here. They were explicit. They did not want to replace the king in that way.
Right. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
They said that. It's not like just read the founding papers. They're all available. Like it's not that hard. It's a very clever system. Right? Right? And whether or not it's viable past 250 years, I don't know. Or I guess we're going to find out real quick.
But I think as that happens, so it's going to, as scales fall from the eyes, it's necessary. So you're in no man's land, right? And
not necessarily.
But you can be.
You can be, right? Well, some people collapse. They find the president's not in charge. They say, the country doesn't work the way I thought.
Yeah.
Maybe my family doesn't work the way I thought. Maybe you're right. Maybe this doesn't, maybe that, maybe my car doesn't work. It's like, that happens.
Honestly, I feel like the average Biden voter isn't like actually paying attention very much. So like the whole thing, like, and maybe it's just like unconsciously they don't want to look, they don't want to see.
Well, however many of them there were.
I'm not sure
but that's the mistake.
Except for the Democrats inside,
right? But that's the mistake. That's the ultimate mistake, John. People think that other people have the same information and have as much of it and use that in the same way that they do. And the bottom line is most people vote by going out on voting day and filling out a card. And they don't pay attention to what's happening in the middle, right? And the things they pay attention to are different. And the things they see, even if they pay attention to the same thing as you, are different. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Almost certainly.
Well, and that's the problem. Like, you can't sell that to people. That terrifies them. They're like, because then they feel like, oh, I don't know what that means. And like, well, fair enough. Maybe you don't. Maybe I don't. But maybe it doesn't matter what that means. Like maybe we can find things to have in common in spite of our differences in perception. But that means looking up. And that means submitting to whatever's above you and the other person, by the way, because it's above both of you. Right. And that's a big, that's a big issue. And that's what, I don't know what's going to happen as, within the chaos. Right. But I know you can't predict it and you can't start talking about systems and collapse because most of the things you think of as systems aren't there. Right. It's like, oh, there's an economic system. There was never an economic system. That never happened ever. Right. It's all post hoc rationalization that we know is inaccurate and imprecise. We know this. Oh, you didn't read John Nash. I did. Read his papers. You'll figure out real quick. Oh, this game theory nonsense and the way the economists do their math, is wrong.
Right.
It's not hard. Nassim Taleb points this out. This is garbage. Economics is a garbage idea, and almost all economists are frauds. Right. That is correct. The idea that there is a system of economics and that there is an economic method or whatever to a given country or a given region or a given thing is wrong. It's wrong. It's just wrong. It's not right. It's not hard. Right. It's a made up fiction. Maybe it's useful in some limited circumstances, but A, it would be some. B, it would be very limited. And C, you don't know which those are and aren't. Right? Read Freakonomics. Read the Freakonomics books. They're fantastic. But they will disavow you of any idea that you understand anything like what they describe as economics instantaneously. And ironically, I think, if I remember correctly, Taleb ran into I think it's Dubner, the economist who wrote Freakonomics, and realized, oh, they're not all frauds. This guy knows what he's talking about. Right. Because he doesn't frame it in terms of money strictly, right? And he talks more about the psychology of human behavior, ironically, even though psychology is a terrible frame too. It's not entirely useless or wrong, right? Instead, he talks about the relationships and the interconnectedness and the unexpected side effects of changes.
Whoa.
That's better. Right. I think the opening story in Freakonomics, if I remember correctly, is the daycare. And they have people coming in late to pick up their kids. So they go, yeah, we're going to disincentivize people coming in late by charging them money. And all it does is incentivize more people to not only come late, but to come in later than they were before. Yeah. And they don't understand why. And it's because the way I would frame it, signals matter. And you've said, I'm willing to trade with you some money for my time. And they took you up on the offer. Right? That's why the signaling model works better. It's the model I use. And all the other models don't work at all, by the way, but whatever. We won't get into that. I'll just drop that there and let you puzzle it out. Right? And then that's the thing. Like, it's signals. They get formed in formation, right? Then knowledge gets created from pieces of information. Information is what goes into your memory, not signals and not knowledge. Knowledge, you rebuild from scratch largely, not entirely, but almost entirely. And then it's understanding, which comes after that. And then once you understand that there are reciprocal relationships, see my model video, knowledge engine model video on navigating patterns, right? Once you understand that reciprocal relationships, bang. And if you want the slide, markofwisdom.org has the slide. But all that reciprocal crosstalk is the thing that everybody's misidentifying, basically. They're going like, well, when you get knowledge and you get more knowledge and that knowledge strengthens the other knowledge. It's like, no, dude, that's not what's happening.
Okay, help me with signal. Mark.
In what way? What do you need to know?
Well, what do you mean by what do you mean by signal? You
signals
mean
happen all the time. You just did a bunch of signals with your hands.
Yeah, but is it a I don't. Can we use some words? So it's the what is it?
Signals are the base level of everything that you sense.
Base level.
Yep. Everything starts with signals.
Right. I know that.
Everything outside of you and all the ways in which your insides cohere are just signals. Right. And then you can map it on the nervous system. And wow. So all the external stuff and all the internal stuff, and I have one map. Yep. It's called signals. Right. And you can map all cell biology with signals. That's easy. You can map all computer systems with signals. Right. They oftentimes call signals data, and data is very confused with information, actually, because it's a middle ground between signals and information. Just because the way it's a side effect of the way we talk about computers and the way computers are organically generated. I'm not saying you shouldn't use signals and data differently in computers. I'm saying that you don't need to do that with humans. It signals straight to information.
But are signals emerging sparks from the patterns? Is that what they are?
No, I think they're independent of the patterns, but I think they show the patterns. Oh, thank you, John,
Independent
for
of
the
the
reciprocity. I love it. It's well stated. Bravo. Yeah, I think the
Oh, they're
way
independent of the patterns rather than emerging from.
right. Exactly. Which is
Yeah,
not to say
yeah.
that no signals emerge from patterns, but
Right,
it is to say
right.
that they are independent, right? They're not fully independent because everything gets caught up in the pattern, right?
Right.
And then your ability to sense the pattern
Yeah.
is so let's suppose your ability to sense the pattern on a scale of 1 to 10 was 4, right? You can inform yourself only that far of the pattern.
Right.
And if my ability is 7, then I see more of the pattern than you do. Or maybe if you're a 4, you misconstrue the pattern. You don't see it correctly, and you make up a different pattern. Right. Right. That's what happens. So what that means,
all the time.
right? But what that means is that two people with the same pattern capacity, right?
Right.
You can either misconstrue the pattern or submit to it. Right. And so that right there explains a bunch of behavior immediately.
But it also explains the importance of tradition and wisdom, right?
Exactly. Right. Because tradition and wisdom says submit to the pattern, submit to the pattern, submit to the pattern. Which pattern? And tradition and wisdom will tell you which patterns.
Well, yeah, they'll help you embody it if you don't have a brain, right?
And those
they
patterns might have been figured out by people with a better pattern capacity than you through time.
Oh, indeed. I'm just wondering what the pattern. I like that. I like that idea of pattern capacity. Coin the phrase now, Mark.
All right.
Pattern capacity, because
It's
I
coined here
know
first.
I and the ancient people were together. Not that I was there, but yeah, the
Yep.
pattern capacity is unbelievable. My friends on the island have a pattern capacity which boggles. I would like to say
Well, it might be that. Well, it might be that they don't. It might be that they're just good at conforming, and they've been shown which patterns to conform to and how to conform to them, and then they look like geniuses.
Yeah, it could be that. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
But maybe
Right.
that is a bit of a genius.
And maybe that's the thing, right? Which would be my thesis. The thing is, if you can conform to patterns, you're already smarter than most people.
I was just going to
Because
say that.
submitting to the pattern and conforming frees your brain up. And trying to figure it out even uses your brain up. Like, why are you trying to figure out this pattern?
Well, yeah,
Like,
because if you submit to the patterns, there's something to be said for a very insular community where you don't have, where that's what is, and that's what's practiced, because it does free up. What does it free the person to do? It frees them to see and enter into relationship and have intimacy with other people, is precisely what this does.
That's right.
And that's how
they get to, instead of thinking about the world all the time,
right,
they get to experience the quality of the relationship they have with the world.
Exactly. So that when I say to the fisherman, "Oh, this is paradise," he says, "Better than paradise," because he gets it.
Yes.
Right?
I like that. That's
my gosh, I nearly died. I nearly died when he said that. And he's sitting there, in his old clothes on a messy terrace. You have to imagine the mess of the terrace. You can't, everything that was precious to anybody in the last 500 years in the island is sitting in one shape or another on this terrace. And we're eating, and all of a sudden, and everybody, no beauty.
And the ironic part is that, so there's no beauty in sight and there's no beauty in experience. And he says a magic word or a magic phrase, and the beauty appears immediately in the chaos.
Right. And it's chaos. The beauty appears in the chaos. And that was, Mark, that's 3 words. That's 3 words. And all he took the paradise, paradiso, and the meglio del. Melio spoke slowly with gravitas.
Related it all together for you, and the beauty emerged, and we weren't there, so we can't see it. And if we had been there but not been able to hear, here's the irony, right? If we had not been able to hear the propositions, the beauty wouldn't have emerged for us. And
Right.
yet propositions are not beautiful,
Right.
but they can help beauty emerge, right? Or you
Yeah.
can just build it.
I said to him, that's really interesting because we didn't have a lot of conversation, you can imagine, because you don't need to. And I said to him, because he was then telling me about how people had words given to them on Christmas Eve so they could cut the winds, and there's something to this. And I said words, and all I said was, words are something. And he nodded. He said, and he often repeats a lot of what you say, of course, right? So he said words are important. So that even this is paradise, you know, he's entering, talk about intimacy. Like he was totally entering into my world. He had literally entered into my world and added the final, and what do you even want to say? It's the conversion. It was a conversion experience of what I was of me.
He completed the pattern by establishing the relationship.
Yep.
And adding quality to it.
Yep.
And that completed the pattern. And you can't complete a pattern by yourself. And really, the choice really is, you can try and understand the pattern, or you can experience the pattern. You can't do both, and you don't need to. You only have to experience the pattern.
Yeah, but to your point, he said, Melio, better, quality, Melio. This guy neither reads nor writes. I'd like to see him with Dr. McGilchrist, seriously. Or honestly, I would put him more.
McGilchrist couldn't handle it, but yeah, maybe Peterson would get something out of it. But I don't think McGilchrist is there.
So. I don't think Peterson would.
I saw McGilchrist in a recent talk, and I'm like, oh, you're not there, buddy. You're still way off.
Yeah,
That's too bad.
I know.
Every time you try to drag him into the right direction, he just boom off in another direction. Like, dude, like, listen to what's being said. And he can't hear it.
He's coming. I really think he's okay. I'm going to say this now. I'm going to put my mouth on the line here. I think you're going to be astounded with Dr. McGilchrist in the next 10 years. I think he's going to be something. I think there's going to be a lot of change and movement.
I hope so.
He's my hope.
I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah. I bet. Thank you for saying that, because that's really helpful. It frees. So what does that mark again? So because he and his sister, there's a sister too, and she's the same. They're totally submitted to the patterns of reality. They are. It's obviously how they've lived.
Yep.
And so indeed, what does that do? That frees them up to be human, to have intimacy. It frees
them up for intimacy.
Right? Can we say that? For sure.
Yeah.
And they are the most of the two people on the island, of which most of them are much more patterned than other people I know, and these two are particularly able to embody. It's uncanny. I've never experienced anything like it. They can actually embody the other person's being in some real sense. It's kind of out of Greek writing.
Well, and that's
some sense. It's
right,
and it's beautiful when you experience, because it back to your simplicity. It's so simple, but again, it's magic words. Magic words.
But that's what it is. It's being. And maybe the choice is between thinking and being. And I wanted to highlight Sally Joe's thing. Sally Joe says, existence was always a fearsome miracle. Oh, that's great phrasing. Sally, how did you learn to talk? Amazing. We are just seeing it again. Yeah, well, some of us are starting to see it for the first time. And I think I will bring John back up. Hello, John. I want to bring you up for only one reason, unfortunately, which is I'm going to close the stream down,
Yeah.
and I do
Okay,
want
that's
everybody's
fine.
closing statements. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're back. So why don't you give us some closing statements for the stream, because I don't want to go any further. I think we're gonna I think ending it right
Yeah.
there is
Oh,
actually
no, it's fine.
kind
It's
of
fine.
ideal.
Yeah. Well, I just want to apologize again. Like I said, that was crazy that I did that. Really out there. It not even just the not doing the proper fact checking, but the way I went about it. I was just angry. I mean, you can imagine if I thought that was true, I would have been upset. You know what I mean? So like, I'm sorry. Really good show, and I don't know. It was lovely meeting you, Elizabeth, and is great seeing Sally again. You know, it's nice to like just learn more about you guys. I guess it's just cool. So thank you, and thank you for accepting me, because I know I'm weird. I'm always surprised when people like actually like are willing to talk to me. So. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're so full of life. You're a beautiful person, John. You're so alive. It's
Thank
a
you.
treat to meet you, really.
You're like, yeah. Thank you. You
It's
too.
really fun. It's really fun. It was great. Thank
It
you.
was wonderful meeting you. Yeah, I hope we can talk again. I'll probably be back next week if I'm not doing some stuff. Which, like, with my life, I might have to be working. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll talk again. So,
Great, great. Yeah, apology accepted again, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad I'm glad you're better. That's good.
Thanks.
And Elizabeth, what do you got for closing statements here?
Okay. Now, here's to your book, Mark. John, my real mission is to see Mark and his book. That's my idea. So, because I think Mark's amazing.
Yeah.
Don't tell him I said so.
Oh, I won't. I have it on mute or something.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Either, by the way.
Thanks for your time, both of you. It's really lovely.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Always a pleasure. Yeah, look, I mean, I'm always a little shocked. I like how far we made it through, we'll say, the basic sort of way of thinking about the world that actually explains everything and works. You can argue, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts when you simplify things down that way. But you know what? Actually, you can deal with the moving parts in front of you when you simplify things down that way. And at the end of the day, I understand that the small fishing village with no knowledge of asteroids and how close they are to the Earth cannot save itself from the asteroid that's going to hit the Earth and land on that small fishing village, because that can happen. Also, guess who also can't save the people who know about it, right? But the people in the fishing village, not only did they not waste the time finding out the asteroid was going to hit the stupid fishing village that they live in, but also they don't waste the time about worrying about it after they figured it out. And there's something there, right? Which is being, right? Instead of thinking. There's not to say no thinking ever, but if you privilege the being side, the walking outside side, the noticing, this year, the dragonflies are back in full force, and there's dragonflies all over my yard. That is so much more fulfilling than trying to figure out, why were the dragonflies gone for a few years? Where did they go? Like, they weren't all gone. You dig down on details all day long, or I can just enjoy that they're back. And I just prefer to enjoy that they're back, because that's easier. And then I can do other things and I can enjoy them, right? If I'm worried about where they went and why they're back, and, I mean, I'm not never thinking about that, but like, if I worry about that, I'm not enjoying them. And so you got to pick. There's a cost. I've gone over costs. I've got a video on trade-offs, right? And this is the point of this initial part of the stream there, right? Like, we're going into chaos. If we're not already there, you haven't noticed. It's going to get worse. You need to know what to focus on. You need to focus on what's in front of you. You need to look for the signals that lead you, that inform you as to the patterns that allow you the knowledge to know how to act in the world as best as you can, in spite the tragedy that you and everybody you love is going to die. And most deaths are horrible. When my mother died of cancer, man, that was not a fun ride. Not a fun ride. She was not in alignment with what she needed to be in alignment with, and she was kind of all over the place, and there was no one else there, so no one else was going to be able to do that. And that had a cost to me, by the way, which I'm still paying, I'm sure. I'm not complaining, and I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't say, oh, I shouldn't have moved down to South Carolina 3 miles from my mother's house. I think, no, I regret absolutely zero, because I was in alignment with the pattern. And that's what's important, right? Is the being, and not the, how do I make sense of what happened afterwards? All of her personal stuff is gone. I have almost nothing of my mother now because it got stolen. I can't make sense of that. That's what happened. It's not going to be corrected. Not while I'm alive. Who knows what happens after that, right? That's how you deal with those things, because you can't deal with them with knowledge. Knowledge won't deal with them for you. We're still LARPing justice. That's how I got into that situation, for sure, right? And it's not my fault. I wasn't LARPing the justice. That's how I lost my first house, too. We're LARPing justice. Well, banks can't just be taking people's houses with no paperwork, even though a 60 Minutes thing came on and talked about people inventing paperwork as a corporate idea and making money off of it for the banks to do foreclosures. Right? And we're just living in a world, and we have been for a long time, where people are ignoring tiny little facts that tell you everything you need to know. And that's what you need to know, is that now you need to just start paying attention very locally, because you can handle that, right? And maybe you can't handle it fully by yourself, which means you need other people, right? But you can do, that's something you can do. Make friends with your neighbors, make friends with yourself, right? Make friends with your family and the people around you, and let them help you and cooperate with them. Because when you cooperate, it's the only way things get better for both of you. Things will not get better for both of you with opponent processing. That's not going to happen. That makes everything worse, right? Cooperative processing is how we get better for both of us. Even though we're both making a sacrifice, we both somehow end up ahead. I don't have an explanation for that. I don't need one. Just
Nicely
submit.
Nicely said, Mark. The sacrifice piece as being part of the cooperative processing, but I love the way you've completed that, leading to like, it's an exponential, beautiful explosion into living and being in that sense. I love the way you've done that, because leaving sacrifice without adding what you did is not useful, in a sense, because you're left hanging. And so this way, that's exactly right. Cooperative processing. Don't forget that. Oh dear. Maybe I'm gonna have to write your book.
Two or more small sacrifices equal greater gains than you can imagine for everybody. Right.
Poor Mark,
And
if I were to write.
It's funny math in a sense. But look, I'm glad the people showed up that showed up. I wish I had more viewers in some of these streams, but that's fine. Hopefully people will get something out of this. Thank you, everybody who participated in whatever way you participated. Feel free to leave comments and subscribe and likes, and watch all of my other videos if you're watching this at all. And have a great week. I'll see you all next week. And, try to be, in the meantime,